Chapter 41. The Empire is Open? The outer district of Tyrian Hive City was a wasteland of charred craters and collapsed buildings. People sifted through the ruins for anything salvageable, their faces hollowed by loss and numb to the world. From loudspeakers along the streets, a fanatic priest's voice thundered, "The Emperor's light shines upon each and every one of us. He has brought salvation. Rejoice, suffering people. His guide walks among the living." Servo skulls carried incense burners, while cherubim drones beat small wings overhead, the smoke curling into vortices in the disturbed air. Behind them, a massive missionary airship glided into view. A huge gilded skull adorned its prow and prayer banners streamed from its flanks. Several priests sang in unison, their voices amplified by the ship's speakers. Heidelake had suggested a visit to the outer district, and Qin Yun agreed to help soothe the traumatized populace. Standing at the bow of the airship, he called out, "May the Emperor's light protect you all," and activated his skills. Emperor's light, blessing, purification. Golden illumination poured down like rain, restoring health and vigor to the people below. Praise the Emperor, praise the guide. Tears of relief and renewed hope ran down many faces as despair was swept away by the miracle. The sight affected people deeply. They shouted and wept, certain again that he on the golden throne still cared for them. A light screen notification flickered in Qin Yun's vision. "Congratulations, you have gained experience. Level LV10, LV11. Learned skill, Knowledge Curse, acquire and apply knowledge faster. Learned skill, Holy Aura, the Emperor's power manifests continuously through your body, damaging hostile warp entities. Learned skill, Brain Burst, lock on to visible targets and use psychic force to make the enemy's head explode." Qin Yun blinked at the unexpected gain. He hadn't killed anyone, then suppressed his surprise and examined the new skills with a satisfied smile. He waved to the crowd once more before the airship turned for the inner city. Back inside the Hive City, Qin Yun met with the War Master. The officer snapped a precise Aquila salute. His excitement was obvious. He'd relished the spy-like work in the ruined districts. "Respected guide," he said. "You've done well," Qin Yun told him. "Now report the intelligence you gathered." The War Master detailed everything. His privileges as a god chosen had opened doors in the inner city, people had been eager to offer information, and with that, he'd traced the Valancius family's ancestral line. He'd confirmed the star god fragment was in an enemy tomb. He'd also estimated the scale of the G's infestation and identified which local defense regiments had been corrupted. "You've done excellent work. The Emperor is proud of you," Qin Yun said, handing out praise without reserve. The War Master visibly brightened. "Make humanity great again, for the glory of the Emperor. It is my honor to shoulder your burdens." Qin Yun's pupils narrowed for a moment at the extreme fervor, and he couldn't help a wry thought at the War Master's string of loyalty phrases. Still, he kept his composure. "Well said. For civilization, for the glory of the Emperor, for the future. Your reward will be personally issued by me after this mission is complete." At the mention of a personal reward, the War Master's chest swelled. He straightened and with solemn gravity recited, "Sir, I require no reward, for loyalty is my reward. To die for the Emperor is the ultimate glory." Qin Yun resisted a laugh and replied, "Very good. The Emperor is pleased with you." He let the War Master return to his work. Outside, purification teams moved methodically through the ruins, spraying disinfectants and performing sterilization. State church priests conducted rites to expel lingering warp profanity and corruption. Once cleansing was complete, enormous engineering machines moved in, behemoths on heavy tracks with blades as wide as buildings, each powered by compact fusion cores. The machines rumbled through the rubble, ingesting wreckage, sorting it into raw materials, and feeding them into construction units. Buildings rose as if printed from nothing. Players watched in astonishment and even tested the materials by firing laser rounds. At most, there were faint scorch marks. These structures were solid enough to withstand heavy bombardment. "Is the human empire's construction technology really this advanced?" one player asked. "I thought they built everything by hand," another replied. "Whether mocked by Necrons or Eldari, or joked about by the Tau, their legacy tech is real," said Shishi Lang, fascinated. Zhongge nodded. "This has to be STC technology, standard template construct systems from the Golden Age." It explains how they scoured planets and built colonies swiftly. Xiaopang admired the achievement. You can deride the human empire, but you can't call humanity weak. Ning Baren stroked his chin. Imagine finding a few STCs. The guide would reward handsomely. If we found time manipulation tech or a panacea. Zhang Jie trailed off. Contribution points become meaningless. Whatever you want, you could get it, another joked. The players chatted excitedly about interstellar exploration and high-level rewards as the outer district transformed before their eyes. At Qin Yun's direction, the reconstruction focused not only on speed, but on sustainability. New water purification plants and greenhouses were installed to secure food supplies. Heavy industries were brought back online with environmental protection systems to reduce harmful emissions. Refugees were resettled. Able-bodied men and women were conscripted to bolster the army for the coming campaign, while others were assigned to produce food and military supplies. Children were enrolled in new schools to strengthen loyalty to the emperor. Those who used psychic powers to sow chaos were executed immediately. Loyal psychers, after being sanctified by the state church, were drafted into the ranks. Uncontrollable psychers were fitted with suppressors and kept under strict guard for use in maintaining Jeller fields. Qin Yun also expanded welfare and subsidies at the grassroots level, using the army to crush emerging gangs and restore order. Under these measures, crime fell, factories roared back to life, and commerce revived. Tyrian Hive City regained momentum. Its people shook off the numbness of war and looked to the future with hope. With Tyrian on the mend, Qin Yun began planning the reconquest of other Hive cities. The Atoma 65th Regiment, the 88th Regiment, the 75th Regiment, and other units are the elite blades of the human empire, he announced at a military council. They will serve as the vanguard, alongside the God Chosen, in the assault on Rockhive City. Qin Yun's influence dominated the conference. His plans went unchallenged. He appointed commands with a steady hand. Colonel Griffin, you will serve as vanguard commander, he said, nodding toward an imperial officer seated to his right. From the War Master's reports and from using his mind-touch ability, Qin Yun already knew the truth. Griffin had long been compromised by the Gs. The regiments he just named were the ones tainted by corruption. Qin Yun planned to exhaust them in battle, then strike at their patriarch and eradicate the threat on this world. Colonel Griffin rose instantly, stiff-backed and precise in salute. Respected sir, leave the most dangerous tasks to me. I will never disappoint your expectations. Chapter 42. Let me show you what loyalty is. Very good. The God Emperor is pleased with you. Qin Yun was satisfied with Colonel Griffin's report. Once this wave of G's troops was exhausted and Rockhive City fell, he would use the opportunity to clear the G's out of Tyrene Hive City and seize the Star God fragment, 2 birds with 1 stone. After the military briefing ended, Qin Yun returned to the Imperial glory. He planned to begin orbital bombardment as soon as the ground forces were in position. As the Valkyrie, he was riding touchdown on the boarding deck. Jack Dupriest hurried over and reported that the warband system and the honor point calculation model he'd been assigned were complete. Qin Yun inspected them, and after confirming there were no issues, he pushed the update to all players. Optimization announcement 1. The original contribution point ranking has been canceled and replaced by the honor ranking list. Honor points can be earned through completing tasks, uncovering intelligence, rescuing civilians, and wartime contributions. Rankings are determined by a comprehensive calculation. 2. A new warband system has been added. God chosen with sufficient honor may register a warband. Warbands can acquire the qualifications to purchase war vehicles, receive NPC army support, and undertake large-scale combat missions, among other privileges. 3. New business gameplay has been added. Players may open factories and shops, operate legally, and explore new forms of play. 4. A new Aquila badge system has been added with 3 tiers, gold, silver, and bronze, awarded to players who make significant contributions. Friendly reminder, the campaign to reclaim Atoma is about to begin. This is an excellent opportunity to earn honor points. Daily thought. Are you loyal today? Players with data boards received the update immediately and reposted it into the group chats. Qin Yun clipped and shared some war preparation videos as well. Immediately, the 3 chat groups lit up like New Year festivities. Cloud players, those watching from outside the game, moaned with envy, desperate to dive in and start blasting with bolt guns. Guilliman is the only son. No more internal testing. Open beta with a data wipe now. I can already hear the citizens of Macragge crying out, "They need me." I don't want to be a stinking. Welcome to Old 13's daily wailing. One night output Slen times. Caring for Old 13 is everyone's responsibility. Guilliman is the only son. I'm going to kill you all, angry. Peach Baby is the handsomest. Let me in to be the Emperor's coin. I can't stand it. Withdrawal symptoms are killing me. When will new reservation slots open? While the Cloud players kept lamenting, Zhongjie, Xiaopang, Shi Lang, and others were in a large cathedral in Tyrene Hive City, debating the update. Warband system, business gameplay, honor rankings, Aquila badges. Whoever planned this is hopeless, Zhongjie grumbled. It just feels like they keep patching things on the fly, throwing in whatever occurs to them, Xiaopang said. Zhongjie remembered the last time the task system had been updated. After they finished fighting the Chaos Ogren and logged back in, the game patched the task module. It seemed the game's underlying code couldn't be fundamentally changed. New tasks were literally typed out by the guide at a console in front of a projector. Solid, straightforward, old school. What is the company thinking? Hiring such an incompetent planner? Zhongjie fumed. Xiaopang scratched his head. Maybe the big boss is wrapped up with a secretary somewhere, overdoing things so he's paralyzed and can't move, and he just lets the planner do whatever. They laughed, and Shi Lang burst out loud. Then, with an abrupt crack, a dazzling bolt of lightning struck him from nowhere. What happened? Someone yelled. Enemies? I didn't sense anything. No rebels around. Where would enemies come from? Did we trigger a game penalty? They stared at the smoking corpse where Shi Lang had been. For a beat, no one moved. Zhongjie's face paled as he put pieces together. The big boss is embracing a little secretary somewhere. Over. Before he could finish, thunder roared again, and a second bolt hit him. He collapsed, deadened, and charred. Moments later, both of them were back online, revived, and everyone exchanged nervous looks. You can't just talk nonsense, someone muttered. A few players, shaken, traded glances and tried to pin it down. Is it the planner? Xiaopang tested it, shouting at the system. The dog planner is embracing a little secretary, paralyzed somewhere. Nothing happened. No lightning. It seemed the game had a rule specifically forbidding insults at the big boss. Those bold enough to mock him were struck down, but an insult aimed at the planner alone triggered nothing. Let's focus on the update, less off-topic stuff, Ningba Ren said, ducking his head. Jug nodded. The campaign to reclaim Atoma is about to start. No wonder they introduced the warband system. Solo players are almost useless in large-scale wars. It's obvious. The warband and honor systems favor combat-focused players, giving them more institutional support, one of them observed. If rankings were based solely on contribution points, combat-focused players would be steamrolled by business-focused ones, another countered. But adding business gameplay encourages players to create complementary roles, Ningba Ren said. Combat players wipe out the enemy, while business players craft weapons and equipment. Together they form a self-sustaining system, more realism, more depth. On Leichhardt Space Station, the Dora Workshop's production lines hummed around the clock. The whole factory was running over capacity to fill the mountain of military orders. To guarantee quality, Qin Yun had sent 2 mechanical priests to provide technical guidance and serve as inspectors. With their help, Dora refined the designs of 3 exoskeletons and launched the Tomorrow 4 exoskeleton armor. Tomorrow 4 differed from the Tomorrow 3. It sacrificed defense and heavy firepower to achieve extreme speed, reduced load capacity, fewer heavy weapons, and added flight thrusters on the back. With that, Dora defined the 4 Tomorrow series roles. Tomorrow 1, entry-level, balanced and cost-effective, standard issue for regular troops. Tomorrow 2, advanced with higher performance across the board, designed for elite units at a higher cost. Tomorrow 3, built for defense and firepower, slower and less enduring, includes a displacement shield and functions as a mobile artillery platform for heavy units. Tomorrow 4, built for speed, assault teams meant to punch through enemy lines and strike high-value targets in the rear. To meet output demands and finish war preparations, Qin Yun authorized Priest Tina to produce the 4 Tomorrow series armors in the restarted weapon factory. Priest Tina, who also ran the manufacturing line as a weapons and bionics merchant, had initially been reluctant. She thought the crude Tomorrow series insulted the Omnissiah's wisdom. But under Qin Yun's orders, she accepted and added multiple production lines to ensure wartime supply. Amid the feverish preparations, the Loyalist faction quickly armed and mustered its forces. They marched in grand formation toward Rockhive City. When the ground troops reached their designated positions, Qin Yun ordered the orbital bombardment. When the rebels had seized Rockhive City, they destroyed most of the shield generators. Afterward, even with warp sorcery, they could only repair a portion. They could not restore shields over the whole hive cities. With deafening detonations, terrifying mushroom clouds rose. Many already dilapidated grand buildings collapsed into flames. The orbital bombardment lasted over an hour. The rebels, beaten and demoralized, dared not show themselves, and the Loyalist forces managed to approach Rockhive City's outskirts. Watching the sea of fire inside Rockhive City slowly subside, Colonel Griffin stepped forward and shouted to his vanguard, "Gentlemen, the time has come to prove our loyalty. Charge!" A cheer rose from the G's troops. "For the Emperor! For the Imperium!" They surged forward, plunging into the rebel artillery fire. 43. Nurgle's army arrives Rockhive City, still reeling from orbital bombardment, belched thick black smoke into a blood-red sky. Collapsed towers and shattered statues jutted from the ruins. Flames licked the heavens while streets choked with rubble became killing fields. A hail of lasbolt and small arms fire turned the air into a living storm. Streams of tracer rounds braided through smoke like iron snakes. Energy beams flashed bright and gone. Above, fighters tangled in furious dogfights, their weapons sketching brief, nameless constellations in the scorched firmament. "For the Emperor, charge!" Colonel Griffin bellowed. "Take Rockhive City at all costs." Lis gunners surged forward behind the rumbling treads of Lehman Russ battle tanks. The heavy beasts ground through debris, their armored hulls crushing collapsed masonry. Lehman Russes were the backbone of the Astra Militarum, stubborn armor, belligerent machine spirits, and turrets able to carry everything from Punisher Gatling cannons to high-penetration battle cannons. As Griffin's men crossed the outer walls and entered the broken streets, rebels erupted from side alleys and ruined buildings, cutting the advance with concentrated fire. Bolts and lasers struck off tank plates in shimmering arcs. Infantry ducked into scant cover and shot back from behind hulls. The Lemon Russes turned their turrets and fired. Boom! Rebel strongpoints detonated, concrete and iron flying in showers mixed with the bloody remains of the defenders. Shot after shot found its mark, precise, punishing. With their heavy positions shattered, the rebels bled ground and morale. "Fill the gaps!" Griffin snarled, already treating human lives like numbers. He didn't care who died so long as Rockhive City fell. Across the battlefield, a different sight. Xiaopang strode in a clanking Tomorrow 3 exoskeleton, leading his teammates into the fray. "Feel the wrath of the Omnissiah," he shouted. The exosuit's multi-barrel bolter barked, stripping bodies into tatters. Rebels who got too close were shredded by the circular saw mounted on Xiaopang's limb. One wounded insurgent lay coughing blood on the blackened street. His chest caved in, skin ashen, pupils ink black. Chaos sigils had been carved into his flesh. Through his suit's optics, Xiaopang watched the man spit crimson and hiss, minions of the corpse emperor, dragged to hell. "Then you go first," Xiaopang said. The exoskeleton's mechanical legs smashed down, crushing the rebel's skull. A small notification blinked in his HUD. "Level up," he muttered, surprised. A new skill unlocked, humanoid vehicle machine spirit affinity, apparently a bonus to bonding with his suit's machine spirit. Machine spirit affinity? Chong Tianbian to Xiaopang's right whistled. "If you level it more, can it help you steal ammo from the warp?" "Steal?" September 9th scoffed. "How do you steal something that makes the machine spirit happy?" They traded barbed jokes as they cut through the lines. The G's regiments, grim, fanatical human auxiliaries, fought with brutal discipline up front. Xiaopang, an old player who'd seen these patterns before, tapped radio channels. The G's couldn't hear them. To the NPCs, the players' chatter was just noise. "Greenskins kill the nation. Jais guard the border," one of the players quipped. "Warhammer's hallmark. can't help but say 666. These are half-breeds, another answered. There are pure bloods in Tyrene Hive City. After this, we'll have to go back for another fight. Does Guide still want to deal with the Jais? Someone asked. No way. Those guys corrupt things like a plague. If we don't neutralize them, they'll be a huge problem. Under the combined push of players and Jais, the rebel lines started to unravel. Swede, a rebel commander, watched reinforcements beg for support and felt the color drain from his face. The loyalists were too fierce, unyielding. He scratched at his scalp until he pulled away clumps of rotting hair. Go ask those damned sorcerers how the ritual preparations are coming along, he barked. Tell them we're about to be overwhelmed. An aide left the command post to deliver the message. A crystalline ethereal shard sailed out of the sky and impaled him through the skull. Others who stepped clear were struck the same way, their heads erupting in showers of gore. The sight turned Swede white with fear. He bolted from the command post, but as soon as he cleared the doorway, a ring of Imperial soldiers in reconstructed exoskeleton armor surrounded the building. Escape was impossible. Despair took him. Capture the rebel leader. 100 gold, 10,000 households, someone shouted as the assault team went in. Brothers, charge! Damn it, Ningbaren, are you watching too many old dramas? A teammate laughed, then set it aside and moved. The fastest players, Shi Si Lang, Ningbaren, and others, smashed through the last defenses and made straight for Swede's command post. Explosions are an art. Head explosions are the art of arts, Shi Si Lang declared, and psionic energy gathered in his palm. His mind reached out like a blade, and the heads of rebels firing their weapons blew apart like ripe melons. Swede's guards fell in a tide of gore. Surrounded, Swede refused to be taken alive. He fought and died torso first to a bolter round that wrecked his lower body, leaving his corpse crumpled in its own blood. What a pity, we didn't get him alive, Shichi Lang said with regret. Then, suddenly, his features slackened. Horrible visions slammed into his mind, infinite Nurgle demons screaming in green, festering waves. Then, as abruptly, a golden sun blossomed in his vision, and the screams fell away. He looked at his teammates, swallowing hard. I heard Nurgle's minions screaming, he said hoarsely. They're coming. Before he finished, the warning proved true. A psionic storm burst from deep inside Rockhive City, a sickness in the air. The sky buckled and warped, strange colors and sickly halos appearing between spires. Buildings slid and flickered like unstable slides. Every player's face changed. Veterans all knew what that meant. The warp was bleeding through. A demonic invasion was unfolding. Stop them, Ningbaren snapped into the channel. And request another orbital bombardment from Guide, now. If Nurgle's demon host makes ingress to Holy Terra, another grim voice added, this planet may not be defensible. One more chapter? And it might already be too late. Chapter 44, Kugas, the Great Unclean. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the players sprinted at full speed toward the source of the warp psychic burst. Rebel soldiers tried to block them along the way, but they were like praying mantises in front of a chariot, easily crushed beneath the armored exosuits of the player squads. Cutting through the resistance, Shishi Lang and the others finally reached the blast site. There, over there, Haigui said, his implanted sensory prosthetics picking out the target instantly. An altar of corpses and skulls loomed ahead. 14 psychers knelt around it, chanting prayers to Father. 3 priests presided over the sacrificial rite atop the slab. Stop them. The warp is spiking. The ritual's almost complete, Shishi Lang warned. As a psyker, he felt the ravenous screams of daemons pressing at the veil from beyond Holy Terra. Cultists swarmed the altar, and spotting the players, erupted in ecstatic roars. They surged forward in a massed charge. Traitors deserved to die, the bald donkey barked. The heavy machine gun mounted on his exosuit spun up and lashed the charging cultists. Bullets chewed men into ragged heaps. Fanatics who tried to close the distance were torn open by spinning chainswords and circular saws. Relying on the exosuit's overwhelming firepower, the players tore a path through the cultist horde. The 14 psychers, drained from sustaining the ritual, could not withstand the assault and fell beneath the gunfire. Still, the rite continued. 3 priests remained on the altar, shielded by cultists who threw their bodies in front of incoming rounds. If ranged fire won't stop them, go in close. Cover me! Ningbaren opened the hatch of his exosuit and leapt out, deploying mantis blades from his wrists as he charged the altar. "Cover Ningbaren!" he shouted. Shishi Lang condensed warp energy in his palm and crushed the heads of cultists at the edge of the altar. The others laid suppressive fire to keep reinforcements back. In a brutal, short melee, Ningbaren reached the priests. Two fell to single strikes, and the last was pierced through the chest on the next blow. The priest coughed blood, turned a terrible grin on Ningbaren, and laughed. "You're too late. We've already succeeded. 7 plagues, 7 curses, 7 blessings, 7 fates, 7 sacrifices, 7 prayers, 7 replies," the dying priest chanted. "Father's angel will soon descend and bless this world." Ningbaren wrenched his mantis blades free as putrid blood spurted from the corpse. At that instant, the altar detonated with a deeper, more violent surge of warp energy. The blast hurled Ningbaren and the corpses like rag dolls into the ruins. Space around the altar warped and shimmered. An eerie, kaleidoscopic vortex of light coalesced. The ground itself sickened. Wet, slimy moss and rotten vines crawled over cracked stones. Swarms of black flies poured out, blotting the sky in a dim, oily veil. Each fly was fat and glossy, marked with 3 blood-red rings, the sigils of Nurgle. Nurglings erupted next, in numbers equal to the flies, chittering with a twisted glee. The lesser daemons, plague-bearers, trampled through them and raised rotting standards, forming ranks roughly 777 strong. Dozens of giant Nurglings carried a rotting palanquin on which a vast, bloated daemon sat, a great unclean one. Its enormous bulk slouched on the bier, intestines spilling from a gash in its abdomen. Unlike the giddy Nurglings and plague-bearers, the great unclean one wore a melancholic expression. Shishi Lang and the others stared, stunned at the demonic army spilling from the warp. "Gods, a great unclean one," someone swore. "This isn't supposed to happen. Can a sacrificial rite by mortals really call a great unclean one?" another asked. "Normally only the most blasphemous works could summon Nurgle's greater heralds." "That was before the Eye of Terror opened. With the rift torn, why should mortals be limited?" came a ragged reply. Shishi Lang studied the daemon's features and recognized it. "That's Kugus, the Nurgling that became a daemon, a greater demon. This is bad." "Don't worry about who it is. Head for the Titan world and call the Grey Knights." Xiaopeng snapped, unleashing streams of fire into the daemon ranks. "Now's not the time for idle talk. Have the guide call orbital bombardment or we're done for." Ningbaren hauled himself out of the rubble and limped back into the fight. Shishi Lang shook his head. "Orbital strikes are useless. A great unclean one like this, only exterminatus will stop it now." Xiaopeng's guns chewed through Nurglings and flies, turning them into bloody paste, but for every daemon cut down, 2 more surged forward. "If we can't stop this, the whole planet's done. I don't know if Atoma can be saved," he said grimly. "We might have to abandon this world," Ningbaren replied, his tone bleak. "It's Kugus. We don't stand a chance." The active players formed a desperate defensive ring, relying on their exosuits' firepower to hold the advancing tide. Griffin and Ainge's forces arrived soon after, quickly organizing to reinforce the line. They bought time, but the demonic onrush kept pressing. Kugus surveyed the world with sincere delight. Father would be pleased to make this place a garden. Then missiles screamed in, streaking toward the palanquin. Explosions bit into Kugus' Bahar, bloated flesh, and singed its rotten robes, but the daemon was only mildly harmed and now seethed with rage. "Ignorant followers of the corpse emperor, your piety is ill-mannered," Kugus rasped. "Abandon the worship of that rotting corpse and come embrace Father." Missiles and Lascannons answered the taunt. Kugus shrugged like a mountain shrugging off ant stings and said, "So be it," then opened a flask of putrescence that hung from the palanquin. He hurled it at the Imperial soldiers and the players. The vial shattered over them, and a virulent plague poured out, rotting flesh and corroding armor alike. Steel couldn't blunt that contagion. Vehicles warped and festered, skin bubbled and sloughed, and machines sprouted writhing flesh that lashed out at their former comrades. Kugus jabbed with sticky fingers and formed spears of warp energy that exploded into a foul, blood-scented mist when they struck human chests. He exhaled a wind of pestilence that ate through ceramite and melted flesh like candle wax. There was no stopping it. Even for seasoned troops, a great unclean one was a nightmare of despair, and Kugas was stronger than most. Just as the defenders' hope was draining, the keening roar of Valkyrie engines cut the air. Dense volleys of bolter fire and beam bolts rained down, easing the pressure on the ground forces. The Valkyrie doors split open, and towering figures jumped clear. Heavy impacts rocked the earth as the newcomers hit ground, giants in power armor, their plate crusted with sanctified sigils. When Kugas and several demons saw them, they widened their eyes in surprise. Such massive forms, such palpable sanctity wrapped around them. When had the cursed ones sprouted new primarchs? "Go back, demon," a voice thundered. Qin Yun strode forward, the holy judgment blade in his hand flaring with a brilliant, pure light. His roar steadied the imperiled soldiers. His raised hand poured golden radiance over the wounded, restoring stamina and spirit. "Give up your worship of rot," he declared, "and embrace the Emperor's justice." Kugas raised its rusted slime-slick greatsword and replied in a bubbling, amused whisper, trying to cajole the newcomers. "Join, Father, accept greater blessings, and become stronger." The blade in Qin Yun's grip shone even brighter as he advanced, and the ground trembled beneath the approaching clash. 45. Loyalty needs no reward. Qin Yun ignored Kugas's enticements. He silently adjusted his breathing, preparing for the fight. The great unclean one stepped out of the litter and lumbered toward him. The creature towered over 7 meters, a bloated mass of putrefying flesh like a mountain of rot in motion. "That corpse is a liar. He can give you nothing," Kugas croaked. "After death, there is nothing but annihilation or endless suffering. But in Father's garden, your fate will be different. Father's garden is paradise for all living things. Nothing truly dies there. From the smallest virus to the greatest beast, all can be reborn from the mud. No death, no pain. Suffering turns to sweet, lasting pleasure." Qin Yun leveled his blade at the monster. "You speak as foolishly as your master. Your words disgust me. You truly are an obdurate fool." Kugas's voice thickened with rage. It raised its great sword high and brought it down. Qin Yun rolled aside. The blade slammed into the ground with a thunderous crash, gouging a huge pit and hurling shattered stone everywhere. "I will capture you and drag you into the garden," Kugas hissed, swinging a fat, pus-slicked hand to seize Qin Yun. Qin Yun slipped out of reach and left a deep cut along the creature's forearm. The daemon flinched, lowly growling with the sting of the wound, but it seized the chance. Its sticky palm suddenly burst with warp energy, condensing into a glimmering spear that lunged for Qin Yun. Qin Yun's passive skill, Shield of Faith, activated automatically. A golden shield flared to his side and deflected the warp spear. The clash produced a concussive explosion that forced Qin Yun to step back and dissipate the impact. Despite its bloated bulk, Kugas moved with surprising agility and pressed the attack, trying to overwhelm him. The great sword swept in a horizontal arc, whistling through the air. Qin Yun could only meet it with his holy judgment blade. Clang! Metal rang, and a shockwave rolled outward. Qin Yun felt a numb ache at the base of his skull and reeled as Kugas hammered another heavy blow that drove him back. Even projecting only part of its power, Nurgle's favored servitor could steadily suppress him. "It seems you haven't received much blessing from the corpse emperor," Kugas sneered. "You're not strong enough yet. You are destined to be fathers." Qin Yun vaulted back to evade another swing. "You talk too much." In the chaos, Qin Yun seized an opening and slashed the daemon's belly. Kugas retaliated, shattering his helmet and exposing half his face. Plague spores flooded his mouth and nose. Warp corruption blackened his skin as vile power sought to rot him from within, but his immune system surged and annihilated the pathogens. A radiant glow washed over him, dispelling the warp's taint and restoring his features. "What a noble face," Kugas crooned, sniffing the air. "Just like Mortarians. Bring you to Father's garden, and you'll be good friends. Give up your resistance. Embrace Father." Qin Yun said nothing. He answered with a fierce lunge of his sword. He would never surrender to the gods. Foolish. Kugas's anger boiled, and it intensified the assault. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Shi Lang and the other players fought desperately to stem the demonic tide. "My arms are numb. There are too many demons," one of them shouted. Explosive micro-rockets, launched from the exosuit piloted by Xiao Pang, tearing apart streaks of plague bearers in fiery bursts. Still, the enemy kept coming. Killed foes were instantly replaced by more. "We'll be ground down to nothing," someone muttered. Zhongge abandoned his powered suit, leapt from the cockpit, activated his power sword, and hacked into the two charging plague bearers. Shi Si Lang drove his chainsword through another. "This isn't a solution. We have to destroy the anchors tying the warp to Holy Terra. Haigui, contact Old Bird and tell him to bring the auger online. Scan the entire Rock Hive city." There must be other altars in the Hive cities. Nurgle's rites favor numbers, 3 or 7. The summoning ritual will follow that pattern. Understood. Haigui opened comms to Old Bird aboard the Imperial Glory. Moments later, he looked up at Shi Si Lang. "You were right. The auger detected 2 other areas with abnormally high warp signatures." Old Bird sent the coordinates. "What's next?" Shi Si Lang pulled up the data and marked a location. "We have to destroy every altar." "Zhongge, take a team and hit the altar at those coordinates." Understood. Zhongge cut through packs of cultists and charging demons, then withdrew from the main line with several veteran players. They carried compact explosive charges and sprinted for the target. Shi Si Lang hailed the flight squad. "Blood Pigeon, can you hear me?" "We copy. Take out the other altar at the coordinates. It's too far for the ground troops and lies behind enemy lines. You're the only chance." "All right, we'll do it." The flight squad led by Blood Pigeon dropped ordnance on the marked location and then veered toward the second altar. "Hold the line," Shi Si Lang shouted to the remaining players. "If we fail here, we lose everything. If this battle were lost, Atoma would be absorbed into the garden. Everything the players had fought for would be ruined. Give it everything you've got," he barked. "Now's the time to prove our loyalty to the Corpse Emperor. Old Bird, fire a few more orbital strikes on our positions to suppress the demonic tide. Don't worry if we get hit. Just bomb the coordinates." The players' courage inspired Ainge, who surged forward to encourage the troops and personally took command on the front. For the Corpse Emperor, hold the line. Colonel Griffin coordinated artillery support. Calibrate for a creeping barrage. Use the God-Chosen's front line as the boundary. Fire. The G's soldiers threw themselves into the fight with suicidal fervor. When the demons charged, they yelled the Corpse Emperor's name and died alongside their foe. Watching from deep within Tyrian Hive City through hidden eyes, the Genestealer Patriarch observed the war and the God-Chosen's actions, silently plotting his next move. On the Altar Assault team, the fighting grew savage. Zhongge and his veteran squad plowed through fewer demons than expected, but faced relentless cultists and rebel soldiers who sought to block their path. Their suits flashed low-power warnings as they fought, but they pushed through to the altar's perimeter. "The gods always want us to kneel," Zhongge snarled, "but humanity will never yield." "In the Corpse Emperor's name, let them taste what self-sacrifice is," another shouted. Knowing they couldn't reach safety, Zhongge ordered the charges detonated. "For the Corpse Emperor," they cried. "For the Corpse Emperor," came the reply. They set off the explosives amid cheers. A deafening blast threw up a wall of fire and shattered the ritual altar. The warp storm faltered. The surrounding demons, including Kugus and its cohorts, were considerably weakened. Qin Yun seized the moment. He leapt and drove his holy judgment blade into the daemon. Their swords met, and the force staggered Kugus. Missiles screamed in from a distance and struck its rotting bulk, blowing away chunks of putrefying flesh and exposing blackened organs. "I cannot keep this up," Kugus rasped. Its strength was ebbing. When Qin Yun pressed the attack, Kugus dropped its guard, and the blade pierced deep into its body. A crackling bolt of warp lightning lanced from its hand. The shield of faith flared automatically. The two energies collided in a thunderous detonation that blasted Qin Yun from his feet and sent him crashing into the ruins. Kugus dragged its sword and advanced toward the dazed player. At that moment, a Limon Rust tank thundered across the ground, engines roaring, its crew bellowing into the battlefield loudspeakers. "For the Corpse Emperor! For guide, sir!" the tank's crew chanted as the main gun barked and shells hammered into Kugus. The rounds detonated against its flesh, but the demon seemed barely annoyed, as if the shells were only irritating it. Still, the tank held its line and drove straight at Kugus. The demon swung its great sword and cleaved the Lemon Russ into ruin. A wounded non-commissioned officer crawled from the wreckage, Pathetic, he rasped. Kugus bent down to regard the broken human with a leer. After sacrificing so much for the corpse emperor, what do you get in return? Loyalty, the officer gasped. Summoning the last of his strength, he yanked the fuse from the cluster bomb strapped to his waist. I don't want to be a stinky tin can. I don't want to be a stinky tin can! Boom! The cluster bomb detonated. A roaring sea of fire swept over the officer and Kugus. When the flames died down, the officer had been reduced to powder. Kugus, however, still clung to life, his bloated, corrupted form even more tattered than before. The corpse emperor's minions are really irritating, Kugus grunted. Shishi Lang and the other players watched the great unclean one with a hollow sense of dread. It can't be killed like this. These things from the warp don't obey any rules of science. Nurgle's health bar is terrifyingly high. I take back every insult I ever made about the Imperium. These monsters are impossibly tough. Qin Yun climbed to his feet and used Emperor's Light to restore himself to peak fighting condition. He looked at the charred hulks of the Lehman Russ tanks, sacrifices that had bought him time. Your heroic souls shall return to the Golden Throne, he whispered, pausing to pray for the fallen. Then he charged Kugus again. The great unclean one swung its rusted greatsword with a crushing arc, aiming to cleave Qin Yun in two. Qin Yun sidestepped, letting the blade miss, and darted to the daemon's flank. He drew the Holy Judgment Blade. How foolish! You cannot match me! Kugus taunted. The greatsword cut a semicircle through the air and shoved Qin Yun backward. Boom! From across the Hive cities, another earth-shaking explosion rolled out. Target destroyed. Mission accomplished. Blood Pigeon's voice crackled over the comms. The second altar had been annihilated. The warp storm was already shrinking. Without their anchor points, some demons could no longer hold physical form. They burst and were dragged screaming back into the warp. Destroy the last altar at all costs. Without the altars to anchor them, these demons can't stay on Holy Terra, Shichi Lang barked, directing players and Imperial troops to the remaining objective. Deprived of warp support, the remaining demons were fragile. The Imperial loyalists' volleys tore them apart. The tide of battle turned. The situation's gone bad for me, but I'll take you with me if I can, Kugus snarled, sensing defeat, but still desperate to claim a soul for father. It struck again. The rusty greatsword came down in a series of heavy blows. Qin Yun kept evading, refusing to trade blows head-on. When Kugus lunged and missed, Qin Yun unleashed Emperor's Light. A blinding golden radiance erupted. Kugus howled and staggered. Qin Yun drove the Holy Judgment Blade into the demon's rotted flesh and poured all his strength into the strike. Brilliant golden flames flared across the bloated corpse. I will return, Kugus managed to rasp. Its body turned to ash in the light, and its soul was drawn back to Nurgle's plague garden. Qin Yun watched the ashes scatter and muttered, If you return, I won't let you escape next time. A golden notice floated before him. Congratulations on gaining experience. Level LV11, LV12, Learned Skill, Prophecy, can see visions of the future. Learned Skill, Psychic Shield, use psychic energy to form a shield that blocks ranged attacks. Learned Skill, Soul Roam, while meditating, one's soul can enter the warp to roam. Boom! Shortly after Kugus fell, the last altar was smashed under a concentrated assault. The warp storm collapsed. Holy Terra's spatial distortions and warped laws corrected themselves. Demons lost cohesion, exploded, and were pulled back into the warp. With Nurgle's host broken, the rebels and cultists in Rockhive City unraveled too. They fled under relentless pursuit by players and Imperial soldiers, and were driven completely out of the hive. The Imperial double-headed eagle banners rose over the ruined spires. Survivors, pustules and festering sores still marking their faces from plague infection, stumbled from hiding places, weeping and cheering as they welcomed the rescuers. They were filthy and broken, but alive. The Battle of Rockhive City was declared a victory. When the news reached Tyrian Hive City, the anxious crowds waiting for the outcome erupted into cheers. Parades filled the streets, big and small. Qin Yun's triumph sent ripples through the warp, a tidal wave that drew the attention of the dark powers. Nurgle brooded over the loss. He did not rage at Kugus so much as begin scheming how to brew a plague that would force submission. In Tzeentch's hidden temple, the threads of fate trembled. The changer of ways smiled and pondered new weaves to twist destiny even further. Slanesh, amid an orgy of souls, dispatched temptation and corruption to lure the cursed combatant. Khorne's brass citadel issued a divine decree. Whoever hunted the cursed minion and claimed its skull would earn Khorne's reward. The followers of the dark gods stirred, gaining power, plotting, and manipulating fate to get at the new prey. Back with the players, the mood loosened. Multiple players had leveled up and rewards were generous. Experience and faith points flowed. The system chatter began to lightheartedly argue possibilities. I've estimated it. I've got enough faith points. When I get back to Imperial glory, I'll ascend. Please, don't let me be compatible with a stinky tin can gene seed, Ningba Ren fretted. Shi Qilang's voice crackled with excitement as he read his own notifications. I've leveled up to 10 and learned 2 new skills, prophecy and mind link. Tarot readings, anyone? He joked. The system told me I can exchange for gene seed and ascend to Astartes, another reported. I got an upgrade too, but mine are generic, Ningba Ren added. Passive skill tenacity means I can take more damage and pain, and my stamina's up. Looks like you have potential to be a stinky tin can, Bald Donkey chimed in teasingly. Ningba Ren shook his head vehemently. Be a stinky tin can? No way. Just thinking about Mortarion, having to call that idiot my gene father, gives me the creeps. Why not? Shi Qilang puffed up, doing a mock August voice. When you meet Mortarion, you can say, Mortarion, the true Legion Master is here. It'd be explosive. Bald Donkey rolled his eyes. Why didn't you tell that to Kugus earlier and have it relay the message? If Kugus goes back and tells Mortarion he'll hold a grudge, Mortarion might try to rip me apart every time he sees me. Too risky. Ningba Ren widened his eyes. So you want me to go commit suicide? Sacrifice my friend, not myself? What are you afraid of? Is Death Guard still Death Guard if they don't fight their own gene father? Take a lesson from Typhus. Shi Qilang snorted. Forget it. I might not even be compatible with Death Guard. You're definitely Death Guard compatible. Why? Just a hunch. The skills you got fit, you're built like Death Guard. They laughed and bantered. The offline players, those who had lain down their lives for the sacrifice, now chimed in over the Warhammer group, joking and complaining. P.S. This guy isn't loyal. My recent condition's been bad. Updates are getting later and later. At that time, I looked around the battlefield, and it was nothing but enemies, Zhongjie said. There were at least 400 or 500 of them, with guns and cannons, charging us with shouts. We were out of ammunition and food, and even our power armor had no juice left. I had only one thought. I served the Emperor. I could not be disloyal, so I ordered my brothers to detonate the charges and die with those bastards. In the corporate slave captured by the Emperor group, Zhongjie's account of his heroic stand at Rockhive City was vivid and over the top. He treated sacrifice like a punchline. Qin Yun, taking a break from his duties, uploaded photos and video clips of the battle to the chat. The group exploded. Guilliman is the only son. Please stop. My withdrawal symptoms are getting worse. When can I pledge allegiance to the Emperor? Fat face who kisses Nurgle madly. Welcome to Old 13's daily wailing. Erlonghu gang leader. No more beta testing. Even with bugs everywhere, I'm in. Baby Peach is the handsomest. When will the group owner open new reservation slots? Group owner, where's your company? I want to send a blood letter begging for open beta. Divination scanner plays Genshin Impact. Smoothly. Blood letter +1, +1, +1. Corporate slave captured by the Emperor, group owner. Everyone, calm down. After my lobbying, the company decided to release 600 internal test slots the day after tomorrow. The most courageous brother of Warhammer. Good news, reservation slots. Bad news, only 600. Worse news, the 3 Warhammer corporate slave groups are full, and groups 4 and 5 are already more than half full. Guilliman is the only son. Kill them all, Jabe. Qi Tingzheng only wants to progress. By the way, the warband system has been live for several days. Why hasn't anyone registered? What? You want to start a Honda gang? Qi Tingzheng only wants to progress. Fat face who kisses Nurgle madly. Warband registration needs a certain amount of contribution points and at least 10 core members. I've been saving points and looking for members to form a hammer and sickle battle group. Also wants to progress. That name feels very wrong. What are you trying to do? You planning to overthrow the three great mountains, chaos, xenos, and corrupt bureaucracy, and build a new human world? Fat face who kisses Nurgle madly. Let's not speculate wildly. Anyway, let's talk about Rockhive City. The great unclean one turned up. Battles like this will draw the attention of the Chaos Gods and Abaddon. Lost Krieg. Honestly, Kugus is brutal. He alone accounted for half the casualties, and the guide nearly had his head blown off by him. Skybraid is a symbol of the strong. The Great Rift changed a lot. Summoning a daemon of that level was far harder before. The most courageous brother of Warhammer. The good days are coming. Remember, our identities in the game are the chosen of Old E, so the Chaos Gods will definitely be interested in us. Juagen Bao is also a god chosen. Will a Slanesh daemon appear as a tempting Jude Mai for me? Midnight Lord asks if your scalp itches. Jude Mai isn't for me. I want Kamado Nezuko, the kind with nothing on. A bowl of lobster soup. Did you see the new 3D? Lost Krieg. Who's got it? Share. Juga7 captures Kabanha. Damn Lolicon, take this bolt round. Why limit yourselves to humans? I think Cthulhu would be delicious. Soft body, slimy tentacles. If the height stayed around 1.3 meters, perfect romantic partner. The group fell briefly silent. Then Lost Krieg typed, Slanesh, sorry, I want that position. Chi Tingjiang only wants to progress. Chaos Demon, meta-talented player, couldn't beat them no matter what. Juagen Bao is also a god chosen. A great daemon of Slanesh is as pure as a new recruit compared to you. Gilliman is the only son, heretic, accept judgment. The most courageous brother of Warhammer. If you fancied corn, I might understand. Maybe you're from Turtle City. But you actually like Cthulhu? Want a sweet relationship with it? That's more chaotic than chaos. One night output Slanesh 10 times. Ha ha ha, I'm dying. Ningbaren, that guy is a stinky can. After promotion, he wailed in the sanctuary like a farting imp. Shi Lang's offhand comment shifted attention from Guanbao's outrageous fantasy. The most courageous brother of Warhammer. What stinky can? Ningbaren got promoted, but he exchanged for a Death Guard gene seed. It depressed him so much he nearly went autistic. A bowl of lobster soup. Promoted? How does promotion work? One night output, Slanesh 10 times. You can exchange for a gene seed upgrade when you hit level 10. Selected little alpaca of God. Then what are you? One night output. 1,000 suns. I don't want a stinky can. That doesn't sound much better. Aren't you a psyker? Why not get a Grey Knight's gene seed? A bowl of lobster soup. Grey Knights were created during the Great Heresy by selecting and fusing gene seeds from loyalists across various legions. They resist warp corruption and, like the Custodes, won't betray the Imperium. Players should only be able to choose from the 20 legions. Maybe only extremely lucky players get matched with Grey Knight's gene seed. Back in the strategic room of the Imperial Glory, Qin Yun was watching the group chat. After the battle, he delegated reconstruction, law and order, and refugee management to the bureaucrats. He'd returned to the Imperial Glory to urge Priest Tina to produce power armor and bolt guns suitable for Astartes so he could outfit the promoted players and boost their combat effectiveness. He was absorbed in the chat when a message popped up from the War Master, who also acted as a diplomatic envoy. Lord Guide, I've gathered all information on the Star God Shard and confirmed the Gene Stealer Patriarch's location. Qin Yun closed the chat and opened the data packet the War Master had sent. The tactical projection on the console refreshed automatically and outlined Tyrene Hive City, marking a red dot. Some players have been promoted to Astartes. It's time to deal with these guys. He examined the projection, thinking about how to eradicate the Gene Stealers. The Star Gods were among the oldest, most powerful life forms in the Warhammer universe. Even a fragment of one held unimaginable power. Qin Yun worried about the unintended consequences of acting on the fragment, so it made sense to neutralize the immediate threat first. The Gene Stealers. Gene Stealers shared information via a psychic network, similar to the Protoss Kala. If they targeted the Patriarch, Colonel Griffin's Jai's regiment would certainly be alerted and could rise in rebellion. To wipe out the Gene Stealers completely, both networks would have to be struck at once. Some careful planning is required, Qin Yun muttered. He left the strategic room to summon Old Bird, Wu Mao, and other veterans for a meeting. Old Bird was at the maintenance console on the bridge, monitoring system operations while running a nuclear fusion simulation program through the Thinker system. The idea had come to him as a curiosity, test how realistic Warhammer OL simulation capability really was. He'd copied a fusion simulation from the Research Institute and run it in the game. It performed even smoother than the Institute's supercomputer. Old Bird's verdict: this game developer is insane. He half-joked that aliens might be behind the game. Old Bird wasn't someone to obsess over mystery. Before he had the full picture, he decided to exploit the game's computing power. Qin Yun, who had the passive skill, Knowledge Curse, walked up behind him and immediately realized Old Bird was using the Imperial Glory's computing resources for his models. Qin Yun's pupils widened. Good heavens, I let you play games and you're doing science? Do you have to be so dedicated? He coughed a few times. Old Bird, slow to notice, closed the projection and sent it to run in the background. Call Wu Mo and Bald Donkey, Qin Yun said. There are matters to discuss. Then he left. Old Bird wiped his brow nervously. Did the guide find out I was slacking by exploiting the computer? He scratched his head. Slack off in a game. Does that count as slacking off? Colonel Griffin was patrolling Rockhive City with a smile fixed on his face. His gaze toward the ignorant refugees was full of zeal. With Rockhive City recaptured, the cult's influence would soon spread through this hive. Everything the Chosen did would ultimately serve the cult. A soldier approached, saluted, and reported. Colonel, the Lord Guide plans a celebration and commendation ceremony 3 days from now. He requires all troops to attend. He specifically ordered that units should not bring weapons or wear armor, so citizens won't be startled. Tanks, IFVs, and other equipment should stay at the camp. He'll send special personnel to guard them. Celebration and commendation ceremony? Griffin nodded. Tell the guide not to worry. I'll carry it out meticulously. P.S. G's Ascension, 48, Star God Fragment. After the battle with Kugus, the Great Unclean One, the veteran players slowly pushed into level 10. Countless fights had left them with a large hoard of faith points. Most of the old players spent those points on gene seeds and ascended to Astartes. A few chose different paths. Old Bird bought brain enhancement and auxiliary brain implants and became a mechanical priest. Xiaopang invested in neural enhancement, preparing to walk the night path. He dreamed of someday getting an Emperor-class Titan to play with. The choices made sense. Not everyone wanted to be an Astartes. In the 40k era, Astartes were priceless, but in the 30k era setting, they were more like elite infantry, useful in frontline meat grinds, but far less rare or prestigious than knights and titans. The players who did become Astartes switched to power armor, bolt guns, and chainswords made by Priest Tina. The armor she produced paled in performance compared to Forge World builds, but it was the only model available in volume. Most players lacked enough contribution points to buy gear outright and had to take equipment on loan. Players who had only just finished paying off one set of enhancement loans found themselves sinking into another debt. Jack, Priest Tina, and the other tech priests watched the scene in silent, rueful amusement. Buying gear on loan to better serve the Omnissiah. What is loyalty? Don't ask what the Emperor can give you. Ask what you can do for the Emperor. Once the players were armed, Qin Yun turned his attention to the Gene Stealers. Under the pretense of a celebration, he ordered the G's soldiers led by Colonel Griffin to parade in the plaza without weapons, to leave their equipment at the camp and gather unarmed. Hidden among them were fully armed players and a contingent of absolutely loyal Imperial troops, ready to ambush. When the moment came, the plan was to execute the G's to prevent future subversion. Is this the Warhammer 40k version of collecting pay in the parade ground with no armor? Xiaopang joked nervously as he and his squad, piloting repaired and modified heavy exoskeleton mechs, took positions on high ground over Rockhive City's plaza. They only waited for the guide's command to begin the slaughter of the unarmed G's. This game blows my mind, Chong Qianbian muttered. Who would have expected Sun Tzu's Art of War to show up in a game? The guide clearly had a taste for Terra's ancient strategies. After all, The Imperium of this era was almost always at war with Xenos and daemons. Wars tended to be brutal reinforcements and exhaustion affairs, not delicate maneuvers like this. Those poor Gs wouldn't have imagined humans could be so ruthless, September 9th said with a laugh. Qin Yun, meanwhile, had not been idle. He took Shi Lang, Zhong Ge, and other political players who had become Astartes straight to Tyrian Hive City. To make the operation run smoothly, he requested that Feng transfer military command to him. Feng did not hesitate. He handed over command without question. With preparations complete, Qin Yun led his force aboard Valkyrie gunships and transport gunboats to the outskirts of an abandoned factory, the hiding place of the Gene-Stealer Patriarch and many purebloods. Seal every entrance and exit. Not a single Xenos gets out, Qin Yun ordered. The Imperial Guard moved like clockwork. Tanks and infantry fighting vehicles sealed off roads and alleys, establishing defensive lines at every choke point. With the perimeter closed, Qin Yun led players and elite soldiers into the derelict plant. The factory was a tomb. Its cavernous roof dissolved into gloom. Abandoned heavy industrial machines lined the halls, reeking of acidic oil and rusted metal. Not long in, a pack of hybrids sprang from the shadows. Bolter fire cracked and lasguns flared. The hybrids went down fast. Qin Yun stamped on a three-armed hybrid still twitching on the floor and used his skill Mind Touch to read its memory and thoughts. The hybrids were linked to a psychic network that bound every gene stealer on the planet. The Patriarch, buried deep in the factory, sensed someone probing the network and launched a psychic assault aimed at shredding Qin Yun's consciousness. In the next instant, connected gene stealers across the complex screamed. They had seen a black sun edged in golden light, an oppressive coldness that carried the imminence of annihilation, an aura that only the will of the Great Devourer could rival. Qin Yun had the upper hand in the psychic arena. He locked onto the Patriarch's locus and in an instant learned the positions of every gene stealer hidden among the human elite, important figures, helmsmen of noble houses, and more. "Found you," he said, and with a single pull of his bolt gun, he blew the still struggling hybrid's head apart. He pulled out his data slate, marked the factory's main passages and enemy positions, then gave orders. "Leave no one alive. Move out." At the command, players surged forward, eager to carry out their roles. "Fighting Xenos, just thinking about it makes me hyped," one shouted. "I used to dream of scenes like this watching Predator vs. Alien," another added. Banter and photo requests flew until Qin Yun, hearing their young, goofy excitement, shook his head and strode deeper into the plant. A dim corridor echoed with strange roars. Purebloods lunged from the dark. Lithe, razor-limbed things with thick carapaces that could threaten an Astartes in numbers. In front of Qin Yun, they were paper. His chainsword, crafted by Priest Tina to compensate after his advancement, had turned his original two-handed Holy Judgment blade into a one-handed weapon, spun teeth, and shredded them. He also used psychic ethereal shards to blast heads apart and unleashed searing psychic fire that turned enemies to ash. Flesh and blood littered the floor in short order. They pressed on through wave after wave of attackers until Qin Yun met a gene stealer magus, a woman devastatingly beautiful and bristling with psychic power. Her human-like features could have concealed her in any crowd. She tried to bar his path and failed. Qin Yun impaled her through the chest with his chainsword and tore her apart. After one massive aberrant fell beneath his blade, the ground heaved. A colossal shape, 6 meters tall, rose from the darkness. The Gene Stealer Patriarch. Its carapace was like diamond. 4 massive claws could rip tanks open. It fixed the room with eyes full of hatred and slammed its claws into the steel walls as it launched at Qin Yun. Qin Yun met the charge. He wasn't the rookie he'd been. He was a living saint now, a fierce warrior with psychic might. The Patriarch slashed, and Qin Yun's chest opened to pain, but he cut harder. With a brutal strike, he severed the Patriarch's head. Corrosive blood sprayed. The huge body toppled with a thunderous crash. Without its psychic anchor, the Gene Stealers panicked. Driven by a blind fear of death, they turned and bolted. "Hunt them down," Qin Yun ordered Shi Lang and the others. "Don't let a single one escape." Back in Rock Hive City, Colonel Griffin and his men were cut down in the plaza. Xiao Pang, players, and Imperial soldiers opened fire the instant the order came. Many Jez soldiers fell before they could raise a hand. Blood pooled around Griffin as a bolt round tore him apart. Why? Why are you doing this to us? He croaked at Ainge. Go to hell and look for the answer, Ainge replied, cold as a lascannon, and finished him with a last pistol shot. With the Patriarch dead and hybrids and purebloods slaughtered, the Jai's infiltrators in the ranks were exposed and eradicated. The remaining Jais fled into the sewers, but the hunters followed. None escaped. Qin Yun and his allies, War Master Heidelake and other senior officers, now turned to purge the corrupted noble families. They moved on the Valancius clan's holdings. Feng, aware of Qin Yun's intentions, raised no objection. Instead, he willingly became the guide. Observing Qin Yun's swift, uncompromising purge, Feng understood he had no choice but to bind himself to Qin Yun's camp. The Valancius family had laid down extensive safeguards to protect the ethereal shard in their mausoleum. But with Feng at their side, the family heir and Casca the Adeptus Mechanicus accompanying them, most defenses failed to activate. Qin Yun moved through the mausoleum with surgical calm and finally reached the chamber where the Valancius ancestors lay entombed. There, in the dim, sanctified light, gleamed the ethereal shard he had been hunting. 49. The birth of the machine soul Shilling. The mausoleum was vast and cold, hewn from black basalt and ceramite, its silence thick with ritual. In the center of the tomb chamber sat a bronze ossuary. Behind it, a stasis field platform shone from the wall, bathing the room in a pale light. Within the field floated a metal cube, its faces etched with Adeptus Mechanicus litanies and alien characters. This is the tomb of my ancestor, Feng said, reverent. Qin Yun rested a hand on Feng's shoulder. I apologize again for disturbing the Valancius family's ancestors, he said. But the Star God Shard is too important. Even if it offends, we must retrieve it. Feng bowed his head. Guide, there is no need for apologies. If they knew the God Emperor's chosen had come to their vaults, they would be comforted. Qin Yun smiled faintly. The God Emperor favors the loyalty of the Valancius. He turned to Casca the Sage. Sage Casca, examine the stasis field. Casca inclined his head. Praise the Omnissiah, as you command. He led a cluster of tech priests forward and set to work. Despite the long run time, the machine spirit is content. The gears are intact. They worked with ritualized efficiency. The device is still functional, no faults detected, a testament to the Omnissiah's design. Deactivate the field, Qin Yun ordered. Retrieve the object. Is that cube the Star God Shard? The tech priests broke the stasis and lifted the cube free, presenting it before Qin Yun. Shishi Lang shook his head. It's not the shard, he said. This cube is a hyperdimensional prison for a captured star god. The alien script looks Necron, Jug remarked, peering at the inscriptions. How did the Valancius get hold of it? War Master, silent until now, explained what he had learned. They found it on an exploration expedition. The fleet even fought a Necron force over it, and was annihilated. A mechanical hum cut through the chamber. Static arcs of light stitched themselves together, and for a heartbeat, sketched the outline of a man in midair. The projection's voice was recorded, flat and clear. Direct descendants of the Valancius, the projection intoned. If this recording has been activated, then the secret of the Star God Shard is upon you. Feng's eyes went wide. The hologram continued. I ask your forgiveness for the calamities my choices brought. Had I not been stubborn, the Valancius might have avoided ruin. The projection's tone grew grave. Whatever your current fate, you must protect the Star God Shard. Never allow it to fall to the enemies of the Imperium. He spoke names and warned. Beware the Colin family. Those vampires will sell anything for coin, even the Imperium itself. They sought to hand the shard to the Xenos without care for the disaster it would bring. The hologram filled in the missing pieces War Master had suspected. The exploration fleet's mission into the Coronis expanse had gone well until they recovered the cube on a dead world. They intended to secure it and send it to Terra. Then a Necron fleet arrived. A titanic battle raged in the void. The Necron vessels overwhelmed the explorers. Facing defeat, representatives of the Colin family betrayed their own people, opening back channels to the Necron commander and attempting to sell the fleet and the cube. Their treachery handed essential data to the Necrons and led to the fleet's destruction. One noble inquisitor, Lord Elwick, halted their shame, the projection said. He used the released power of the Star God to slay the Necron commander, but he did not survive. He could not send word of the Collin family's treachery to the Inquisition. Only I escaped, entrusted by the dying Inquisitor to bear the cube. On his return, the Valancius Patriarch was blamed by the survivors, smeared as the cause of the fleet's destruction. Pressured by ruined factions, the family paid out its wealth in compensation. The ancestor intended to speak the truth, but the Calixis sector was a powder keg, crowded with heretics and rogue Eldar, and the Collin family stood tall and powerful. Revealing the betrayal would have spurred open war, plunged the sector into decades of conflict, and likely doomed the Shard to fall into Xenos or heretic hands. To prevent that outcome, he kept silent. He hoped Terra would send agents to collect the cube, the projection continued, and so I hid the truth in this recording. If Terra ever sent someone, this message would reveal the betrayal and vindicate the brave Inquisitor Elwick. The vile sit in high halls, enjoying flowers and applause. The loyal are met with doubt and slander, bearing everything alone. The voice faded. Warmaster let out a low whistle. The writer of this, the developer of this plot, truly had a conscience, he muttered, half amused, half earnest. Jug, Shi Lang, and the others bowed their heads in quiet respect. The Valancius family had paid a terrible price, losing fortunes and standing rather than unleash a war that might have shattered the region. They had been reduced to a single world, their name besmirched and their influence stripped. Had Qin Yun not arrived, the family might have been erased when Atoma fell. Feng pressed his palm to his chest and vowed, "We will serve your house. We will not betray our oath." Qin Yun met him steadily. The Valancius will regain all they lost, and more. Loyalty will be rewarded. He took the metal cube and led the small company back to the Valkyrie. They returned to the Imperial glory and went straight to the praying sanctuary. Before the Emperor's statue, Qin Yun set the cube on the altar. Light poured out and washed over it. Quest: obtain the Star God Shard from Atoma planet. Reward will be received shortly. A glowing aperture opened, and a cherubim fluttered through, alighting before Qin Yun. It handed him a sphere that glowed with a milky internal light. "Chosen one," the cherubim said, "my lord is very pleased with your deeds. Continue as you have begun." With that, the cherubim slipped back through the light. Qin Yun noticed the cherubim's features seemed a touch more whole than before, as if the Emperor's power had mended whatever had been broken. He turned the orb in his hands. A projection rose from its surface, displaying its data. Item: Star God Seed. Star gods are ancient beings of unfathomable wisdom and power. This is a newly born star god infant, no self yet, but possessing infinite potential. Its nature will depend on how you nurture it. First, find it a host. The Imperial glory is an appropriate vessel. Strive, young one. Strive to master a god. Qin Yun frowned at the wording. Young one? Master a god? The phrasing struck him as irreverent, almost like corruption by some decadent influence. He suppressed the thought and followed the prompt. He placed the glowing orb into the Imperial glory's command console. The seeds sank into the system, and the entire Moon-class battleship shivered, as if a heart had begun to beat. A choice window appeared before him. Please set the appearance of the machine spirit and confirm its name. Qin Yun blinked. He could even customize its form. After a moment's thought, he shaped the image of a small, cherubic angel, childlike, with delicate wings, and christened it Shi Ling. The projection solidified into a tiny angelic figure that floated before him, head tilted and hands folded. "Master," the little projection chirped, voice bright as bells. "Shi Ling greets you. Are there tasks for me?" Qin Yun looked at the small angel and felt the weight of what he had done. He had placed a nascent deity into the heart of his ship and named it. Shi Ling's eyes shone with the beginning of awareness. The Imperial glory had a new soul. Chapter 50, Let Me Resurrect Sanguinius? If Shi Ling had a physical form, she'd be a hit idol across the Imperium, Qin Yun said, smiling. Who wouldn't love a cute lowly angel? Shi Ling floated beside him, prim and proud. Master! Her words snapped Qin Yun's wandering mind back to Holy Terra. Shi Ling, what can you do in your current state? Shi Ling spread her fingers and began to list. I can absorb knowledge, optimize designs, improve computing models, control unmanned intelligent machines, reverse engineer technology. If you provide the materials, I can even upgrade the Imperial glory into a far more powerful warship. Shieling is tightly bound to Master. We can share abilities and powers. There are many things I can do. Give the order, Master. Qin Yun stroked his chin. This was an alternative cheat code. Even ignoring everything else, the ability to reverse engineer technology was a godsend. The Imperium hoarded so much black tech. If it could be reverse engineered and mass-produced, why worry about failing to reunite the galaxy or restore humanity's former glory? Imagine producing hundreds of Blackstone fortresses or mountain array ships. Who would dare stand against him? The warring races would be forced to sing and dance and learn the meaning of peace. Even the Silent King or Abaddon would be reduced to minor nuisances. Siling, he decided. From today, you're in charge of guiding the god chosen, assigning their tasks and calculating rewards. You'll run the contribution point system, reputation system, honor system, and all player-related matters. For research, start with optimizing the Tomorrow Series exoskeleton power armor. It must be cheap, durable, and suitable for mass deployment to ordinary soldiers. The Imperial Army's equipment was embarrassing. Many victories came at the cost of wasted lives. Titans sneered at them as space barbarians. Qin Yun planned to begin on Atoma planet, raising humanity's tech and discipline bit by bit. When hundreds of millions of Astra Militarum troops marched in exoskeletons and a magnificent fleet of golems sailed to battle, maybe the Titans would finally take them seriously. Relevant computing model established. Optimizing Tomorrow Series, estimated time 32H21 min, Shieling reported. Contribution, reputation, and honor systems taken over. Player-related tasks are being optimized. Qin Yun nodded, satisfied. Good. Get to work. I'll call when I need you. Okay, Master. Shieling hovered closer. Master, would you like me to create an official game website and handle daily maintenance? You can see the chat group? Qin Yun asked, mildly surprised. Shieling and Master are tightly bound. Life, soul, and abilities are shared. If Master permits, Shieling can connect to the outside. She tilted her head. If you want, I can build it now. All right, build an official site. We've been using the group chat, but it's risky. Understood, Master. A few minutes. True to her word, a simple but functional website interface appeared within minutes in Qin Yun's projection. It's ready, Master. The layout was clean and basic, with a reservation function. Qin Yun frowned. The page is too empty. Add data on the Imperial Glory and Atoma planet. Don't leave it blank. Okay. Shieling updated the site immediately, populating it with introductory information and basic features so visitors could understand the game's current content. Satisfied, Qin Yun opened the group and posted the announcement under his handle, Corporate Slave Captured by the Emperor. At everyone, the game's official website is now live. From now on, updates, announcements, and data packs will be released there. Reservations are open. When slots are available, they will be randomly allocated among those who reserved. Professional testers no longer need to apply through admins. Submit directly on the site, and a dedicated reviewer will process your request. A forum is open for strategy guides, tutorials, and insights. Highlighted posts will earn rewards. The recording feature is enabled. Players can upload videos to the Imperial Glory database. High-quality submissions may be distributed to players. After posting, Qin Yun logged off the chat. The group exploded with reactions. Finally, an official website. This developer actually cares about the game, not just money. The game's been in closed beta for half a month, and the site's just now up. Respect. Luo Baude clicked the website link immediately. The site's database contained only basic introductions to the Imperial Glory and Atoma planet. Most sections were still empty. He grumbled, this game company really isn't interested in profit. He hit the reservation button. A confirmation popped up. Reservation successful. Current reservations, 5,500. Luo Baude's heart sank. There were only 600 slots to be released, and thousands had signed up. His odds were a few tenths of a percent. How long before he'd finally serve the Emperor? On Holy Terra, in a university dorm, Sun Yi, fresh back from class, saw Qin Yun's announcement and the newly posted player guides and videos. He brightened. I have enough material to make a new video for my Corporate Slave Captured by the Emperor series. His blogger account, A Bowl of Lobster Soup, had produced several Warhammer O videos that had exploded in popularity. He'd even earned a reward from one of the in-game guides who'd praised his contributions and promised that, Once things stabilized, he'd be considered for a recruiting officer position, specifically to recruit soldiers and gather currency for the emperor. Positions were hard to get and valuable. Starting at grassroots recruitment could lead to command someday. Back on the Imperial Glory projection, Qin Yun closed the chat and handed daily operations to Shieling. A moment later, a golden panel materialized in front of him. Special mission: Resurrect Robut Guilliman. Reward: Generous Faith Points, Legendary Weapon. Special mission: Resurrect Sanguinius. Reward: Generous Faith Points, Legendary Power Armor. Special mission: Find the Lost Jagatai. Reward: Generous Faith Points, Divine Weapon. Qin Yun blinked and rubbed his eyes. The golden panel hovered unchanged. Is the Emperor hosting a variety show called Where Did My Son Go? He muttered. Why are all the new special missions about finding sons? And why do the missions keep multiplying? He couldn't help but grumble inwardly. The Emperor was good at piling on responsibilities. His original job had only been to bring corporate slave captured by the Emperor into the game. When he hit level 10, the Emperor had released a slew of timed missions. Now, special missions to retrieve Primarchs had been added. The more useful you were, the more tasks the Emperor gave you. If his level rose further, who knew? Maybe a mission to conquer the Eye of Terror or the Great Vortex would show up next. Chapter 51, The First Sky Eagle Medal. After grumbling about the Golden Throne's client, who couldn't even take care of himself, Qin Yun pulled up the special missions. Why is there still a mission to recover Alpha Arius? Could he still be alive? Qin Yun stared at the mission entry on the light screen, surprised. Alpha Arius, Lord of the Hydra, the Primarch of the 20th Legion, and the first Primarch to return. When the Emperor created the Primarchs, the Chaos Gods sabotaged the experiment. The scattered suns were hurled into the warp and landed on different worlds. Alpha Arius had fallen onto a barren plateau near the Imperial Palace. The Emperor found him quickly, even slaughtering nearby scavengers to keep the secret. The Emperor and the thinker Macador raised and educated Alpha Arius in utter secrecy. For a long time, Alpha Arius's very existence was one of the Imperium's deepest secrets. On the eve of the Horus Heresy, Alpha Arius made contact with a secret cult and later sided with Horus. The Alpha Legion's actions during the rebellion were maddeningly ambiguous, both treacherous and strangely loyal. In a sabotage operation aimed at the solar system's defenses, Alpha Arius was said to have been slain by Rogal Dorn, Lord of the 7th Legion. If that were true, then the mission should be to resurrect him. So why did the entry say, recover Alpha Arius? Was he not truly dead, or could he revive like Vulcan? The whole thing was baffling. 1 Alpha Arius falls, and 1,000 Alpha Ari rise, Qin Yun muttered, then set Alpha Arius aside. The highest priority among the special missions was resurrecting Guilliman. That mission was simple. Belisarius Cawl possessed the armor of fate capable of bringing Guilliman back. If Cawl could be reached on Macragge, the mission could be completed. Moreover, the timed mission to assist Belisarius Cawl could be completed at the same time, 2 objectives with 1 effort. Sealing. In the shape of a small angel, Sealing appeared before him. Master, how may I serve? Can you traverse the warp and navigate to Macragge? Sealing is immune to the warp, she replied. If I enter it, I will find the correct route. Qin Yun nodded. Sealing's warp immunity was invaluable. It greatly reduced the risk of getting lost or corrupted within the Immaterium. With enough crew, they could reach Macragge safely. The problem was Qin Yun only had 1 lunar-class ship. Atoma Planet had only just been half reclaimed. Tyrian Hive City was still being rebuilt from scratch. Assembling a proper fleet would take an unknown length of time. Never mind, I'll take the Imperial Glory, bring all the promoted players, and make up the numbers. Master, it is time to open reservation slots. Do you want to select reservists? From now on, handle these matters on your own, Qin Yun said. You don't need to ask me every time, just show me the report afterward. Understood. Holy Terra, Dongda Research Institute. Before leaving for the day, Ding Yanfeng was summoned to his supervisor's office. Yanfeng, your team has been exceptionally efficient lately. Your data calculations are much faster. Project progress has improved. I've been thinking about optimizations after work, Ding Yanfeng replied, feeling a twinge of guilt. The efficiency gains came from working even while asleep and covertly tapping Warhammer OL's computing power, details he dare not mention. Being branded a game addict would be awkward. I'll keep it up. Good, his supervisor said warmly. The future needs energetic, innovative young people like you. Ding Yanfeng breathed a sigh of relief as he left the office. Pride quickly replaced his worry. Warhammer OL was astonishing. He could play and advance his work at the same time. He couldn't help imagining the limits. Maybe he could even simulate a nuclear fusion experiment inside the game and reproduce the results on Holy Terra. Such a thought felt dangerously grandiose. Outside, he pulled up his phone and opened the game chat. Gilliman is the only son. I don't want to live anymore. Why wasn't I chosen? Emperor, why? I don't want to be a stinking can. Welcome to Old 13's Daily Wail. Haha, I got it. Colonel Datch, calling the Inquisition, suspected sit-and-forget behavior, requesting exterminatus. One night output, Slanesh 10 times. Long Shia's recruitment is insane. Yesterday there were 7,000 reservations. He pushed it to 35,000 in one day. Ding Yanfeng scrolled for the latest game news. Dong Hai came up and clapped him on the shoulder. Still staring at your phone? Let's hurry back and log in. I heard the Imperial Glory's machine spirit merged with a Citan shard and produced a new machine spirit named Shieling. She's supposedly adorable. A new machine spirit, Dong Hai said. Hopefully she won't block our access to the game's compute. Imperial Glory Praying Sanctuary. 600 new players logged in successfully. The vast sanctuary buzzed with newcomers, all noisy and excited. This is insane. Long Xia wasn't lying. I must have been favored in a past life to play this game. The lighting, the haptics, so real. Where are the succubi? I'm here to be righteous and purge them. Call Korn. I'm tackling him. Look at that servo skull. Is that thinker wetware? Will our brains become wetware after we die? Where's the logout button? I didn't actually go to Warhammer, did I? Wah! Read the guide. Pray before the Emperor's statue to log out. Old Bird and Wu Mao, having just logged in, watched the chatter and exchanged a smile. The Emperor had new cannon fodder online. Silence. A commanding voice cut through the noise. Qin Yun strode in with a squad. The newcomers fell quiet, looking at him with awe and reverence. Welcome to Hell, the Emperor's newest subjects, he intoned. I am the guide, the Emperor's chosen saint. The great raider has been destroyed. The dread age of night is upon us again, and the burden of saving the Imperium now falls to you. After the formal speech, he released the new players to explore, then walked straight to the War Master, who had just come online. The War Master had been serving as a field diplomatic envoy, gathering intelligence on Titan shards, the history of the Valancius family, and even the Genestealer Patriarch. His contributions were substantial, more than mere contribution points could reward. Guide. The War Master rendered the Aquila salute. I said I would reward you once this was over. The time has come. As Qin Yun spoke, notifications bloomed across the Imperial Glory and on every datapad. God-chosen Second Empire War Master has been awarded a Golden Eagle Medal for providing crucial intelligence on Khitan shards and the Genestealer Patriarch, and for significant contributions to the Imperium. He is a hero of the Imperium, a brave protector of humanity. Let us hail him. The War Master had been ranked 360th on the honor board, dwarfed by veteran players. With this announcement, his rank rocketed past Shi Lang and others, shooting to the very top. What? That's insane! Such generous rewards. That War Master is going to get cocky now. Envy and disbelief rippled through the crowd. Xiao Pang and Bald Donkey regretted not volunteering to be the Tyrene envoy. They had passed up the chance and watched the War Master unearth a hidden mission and claim the first medal in Warhammer OL. Painful. All eyes turned to Qin Yun and the War Master as Jackdaw Priest stepped forward carrying a small box. Inside, cradled on soft silk, lay an adamantium Aquila badge and a parchment oath. Qin Yun picked up the medal and looked the War Master in the eye. Are you willing to swear the oath and accept this eagle medal? Servitor skulls hovered around Qin Yun, their mechanical eyes recording every angle. War Master's face shone with excitement. He hadn't expected the conferment ceremony to come with a dedicated storyline. He was going to ask the squad leader to send him the recording to keep. I am willing. War Master sank to one knee, hands outstretched, and spoke with reverence. Are you willing to serve the God Emperor and fight against darkness for the human empire? I am willing. Are you willing to wield your sword to protect civilization and fight for humanity to the end? I am willing. Are you willing to eternally oppose the enemies of chaos and purge all evil? I am willing. What is your duty? To sacrifice myself for the will of the Emperor. What is your mission? To defend humanity to the death. What is your destiny? To fight until death. Stand up. Qin Yun gestured, and War Master rose. Qin Yun crouched and pinned the eagle medal to his chest. Remember this oath, he said. The God Emperor is watching. Old Bird, Wu Mao, and the other veterans watched with sour envy, as if they'd swallowed a lemon. Why wasn't it them being honored? They'd have to keep grinding. They wanted an eagle medal of their own. They wanted a dedicated storyline. This is too cool, an oath ceremony with its own plotline. What other game does this? One new player gushed. It's inspiring. I'm going to grind like crazy. I want that eagle medal, another said. I'll offer my heart and liver to the Emperor, someone else chimed in. I'll sell my ass to the Emperor. Wonder if that'll get me one, joked another, and a chorus of laughter followed. Quick, call the Inquisition, tie this heretic up, and slow roast him for 3 days, someone laughed. The new players were flushed with excitement. The immersion, the ritual, everything felt real. They were captivated. Now they had one thought: grind for the Emperor, give all their loyalty. Capitalists want us on 996. I want to hang them on lampposts. The Emperor wants 007 from me? Then the Emperor loves me. Loyalty needs no words. Grind. Must grind relentlessly. Qin Yun watched their enthusiasm with a small, satisfied nod. If you wanted to name the strongest workhorses, it was the players, working 007 on loans, grinding until they dropped, all for loyalty. Even the servitors couldn't compete. After the ceremony, on the way back to the strategic room, Sealing's projection flickered into existence before Qin Yun. Master, the Tomorrow Series exoskeleton has been optimized. Qin Yun nodded. Transfer the relevant data to my data slate. Understood, Master. Sealing finished the transfer quickly. Qin Yun opened the slate and studied the files. Very well done, he said. Sealing's projection brightened. Sealing must complete the tasks Master assigns perfectly. Good girl, Qin Yun replied, then returned to the strategic room and opened a channel to Lycard Space Station, where Dora waited. Dora had undergone a major transformation. He wore a crimson robe with glossy data cables implanted at his temples. Servitor skulls and mechanical arms were connected to his spine by neural harnesses. He had not chosen to become an Astartes. Instead, he had reinforced his mind, implanted auxiliary cogitators, and ascended to the rank of mechanical priest. As a mechanical priest, a player could consume faith points to receive knowledge from the Emperor across many fields. No need to crawl up the slow ladder of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Guide, sir. Dora snapped an Aquila salute, his voice almost trembling with excitement. He just watched the conferment broadcast by the servitor skulls. What boy hadn't dreamed of being a hero and a knight? His body was older than his dreams, but dreams didn't vanish with age. They only got buried in the clutter of daily life. The guide had sought him out. This had to be important. This is Shiling's optimized Tomorrow Series exoskeleton, Qin Yun said. It's more cost-effective. I want you to expand production and strive to arm the human empire's regular soldiers to the teeth. Dora unpacked the data package and began analysis. Since his ascension, he had far stronger logic and computation. He finished reviewing the design in minutes. Costs have increased by over 30%, but efficiency is significantly improved, he reported. However, expanding production right now will be difficult. What's the problem? Qin Yun asked. Dora looked sheepish. There's no money left. I invested all my contribution points into current projects. Funding? Qin Yun smiled. That's an easy fix. With the authority to mint currency, how could he lack funds? He would simply overissue, issue boldly. Let the players bear the inconvenience. He would take the blame. Have Shilling run a full assessment, and then I'll inject capital into Dora Workshop. Proceed with the expansion. Understood. By the way, have you been researching any new equipment? Dora asked, chest puffing with pride. Go on. I'm reverse engineering the power armor you sold. It's nearly fully analyzed. I plan to reduce costs and fit a miniature fusion reactor to extend endurance. And, Dora hesitated, clearly proud, Dora Workshop is designing a bipedal combat mech, provisionally named Zagu-01 type. Here are the specs. He sent the Zagua 1 package. Qin Yun reviewed it. According to the Human Empire's classifications, it was a small mech, 17.5 meters tall, up to 175 tons, equipped with a deflector shield and a miniature energy reactor. Combining force feedback and neural interface tech, it let a pilot control the machine intuitively. Weapon loadout options included a giant chainsword or chain axe, 6 small Hellfire missiles mounted on its back, a heavy multi-barreled laser cannon, and a 120mm heavy autocannon. Performance-wise, the Zagu 01 lagged behind the Empire's night mechs. Its firepower, shielding, armor, and mobility were inferior. Its single advantage was cost. A Zagu 01 would cost only about 1/10 of an equivalent height night mech. Can it be mass-produced? Qin Yun asked. Technically, yes, Dora replied. No unsolvable engineering problems, only some structural optimizations remain. If Dora Workshop is scaled up, production lines can be established quickly. I'll fully support you, Qin Yun said. Industry is the backbone of war. We must increase military production capacity and arm the soldiers to the teeth. You have a heavy responsibility. Dora froze, then his face lit up. The guide cared about industry, personally encouraging him. That meant recognition, and perhaps the path to earning an Eagle Medal. I will complete the task, guide, sir. Qin Yun nodded, encouraged him further, then closed the channel. Just as he was about to turn away, Shiling's projection lit again. Governor Feng of Atoma Planet requests a meeting, Master. Connect him, Qin Yun said. The projection refocused to show Feng's anxious figure. Respected guide, please forgive the interruption. No need for formalities. What's the matter? Feng's shoulders hunched. Guide, my astropath received a communique from the tax department in the Calixis sector capital. They demand we pay the tithe immediately. Qin Yun's pupils narrowed. Didn't you tell them Atoma is suffering from a rebellion? I did, Feng said, voice tight. But they replied that the rebellion is the Valanxius family's own failure, and not their concern. They want the tithe. If we don't pay within the deadline, they'll brand us traitors and dispatch punitive forces. Feng's astropath had appended a postscript. P.S. The Ultramarines are on their way. Qin Yun's expression hardened as he absorbed the message. 53. Industrial Act, good news for farming players. Even if one dies and goes to hell, the tax collector's bill will follow. That grim little saying was a favorite Warhammer joke meant to mock the Empire's rigid, soul-sucking tax department. It used to be funny. After experiencing the Empire's bureaucracy firsthand, Qin Yun had lost the humor. Who knew how many casualties that system produced? When it came to persecuting humanity, the Chaos Gods paled next to Imperial clerks. Even if a world was already a living hell, those men would still demand the planetary tithe and then leave the people to starve. No need to worry about it, Qin Yun said, dismissing the tax department's notice with a wave. Atoma is a ruin. Half the planet hasn't even recovered yet. Where would the tithe come from? Feng looked uneasy. What if the sector government blames us? Qin Yun shrugged. Then tell them it's the Holy Emperor's will. Master, shouldn't we at least gather something and pay a portion? Feng suggested. The state church in the Calixis sector is fanatical. If they refuse to recognize you, Feng trailed off. Qin Yun understood. He was worried the state church might not accept Qin Yun's claim as a living saint and could brand him a heretic. Given their mentality, it was a real possibility. The state church's influence in the sector was second only to Terra itself, with branches proselytizing and setting up holy cities everywhere. If they decided Qin Yun was a dark god's trick, they would show up in warships and issue an exterminatus for Atoma. Qin Yun smiled, trying to calm Feng. If they refuse to accept the Holy Emperor's will, then I will have to deliver ultimate judgment in his name. With the Empire's notorious speed, he could consolidate Atoma before any punitive fleet arrived and secure his flying wings. Once he had wings, he could use faith points to buy the Holy Emperor's power to perform miracles. In the current religious climate across the Empire, it would be hard to say who would be the real heretic then. I understand. No matter what, the Valanxius family will stand with the guide, Feng said again, pledging his loyalty. Qin Yun asked about Tyrian Hive City's reconstruction. How's the restoration going? Everything is getting back on track. All the noble families have sent their heirs to take up positions to serve the Holy Emperor, Feng reported. The factories will be handed over to the great houses to manage. They have experience and know how to boost production. Hearing that made Qin Yun frown. If he hadn't intervened, the recovered sectors of Atoma would have been carved up like a cake by those parasites. There were indeed nobles loyal to the Holy Emperor, but loyalty didn't feed people or run factories. Most of that loyalty was self-interest and unreliable. From the start, Qin Yun never intended to rule through the aristocracy. He planned to build from the grassroots, forging the strongest army through faith. Do not let Tyrian Hive city officials simply appoint their family scions, Qin Yun ordered. Reserve 2/3 of the positions for suitable talent drawn from the mid-hive and underhive. Reconstructed industrial facilities must be managed through open bidding by capable people, no backdoor deals. And this directive applies not only to Tyrian Hive City, it will apply to all recovered zones. Feng looked worried. Guide, this will upset the houses. Their influence touches every part of the Hive cities. Without their backing, your authority could be undermined. If they are unhappy, let them be unhappy, Qin Yun said severely. The High Lords of Terra were furious with the Great Raider, but did that stop him from breaching Cadia? Tell those families everything in the Empire belongs to the Holy Emperor. If they resist, I won't hesitate to declare them heretics and act. He paused, then added, the God Chosen will also be eligible to bid on the factories. The players were Qin Yun's foundation. They couldn't be treated as expendable labor. He planned policies that matched the players' abilities, giving them resources so they could grow, and in doing so, gradually reform the empire. After finishing his orders, Qin Yun and Feng cut the connection. Qin Yun opened the control panel and drafted a public announcement. Feng's warning had convinced him that reforms needed to move quickly. Industrial Production Act. Announcement. To increase the enthusiasm of the God Chosen, boost the empire's productivity, and reform social customs, the following proposal is issued. 1. God Chosen may contract industrial production facilities in Tyrian Hive City, operating on a profit and loss basis. Credit system update. God Chosen may apply for higher loan quotas by submitting business plans. 3. Players who maliciously violate labor laws or infringe on the human rights of NPC laborers may face penalties including account suspension or expulsion. 4. Meeting production targets, undertaking social responsibilities, and developing new technologies can earn honor points. Number 5. Contribution points will be tied to Atoma's local currency. Players may exchange them with the machine spirit, sealing. Plus a thought for the day, only cowards seek compromise. Qin Yun checked the text several times. It was the first version. If problems were found later, he could issue a revision. Satisfied, he published it. Industrial Production Act? The announcement hit the players like a bomb. Holy crap, we can contract industrial facilities in the Hive City and run them for profit and loss? We can do business with NPCs? This is gospel for farming players. As someone who maxes out resources in Stellaris, Mountain and Blade, and Frostpunk, this is my time to shine. This is going to kick off large-scale production. Looks like another war is about to break out. The message thread erupted, but Qin Yun ignored the noise. He remained alone in the strategy room, poring over reports and assessments about Tyrian Hive City. He would not let the nobles steal the fruits of victory from the players and the loyalists who had fought for Atoma. He worked until exhaustion forced him out of the chair and into the strategy room's lounge. He no longer needed sleep, technically, but sleep helped him reset his mood and gather energy. He lay down and drifted off. In his dream, he was on Terra, resurrecting Guilliman, Sanguinius, and other Primarchs. Together they fought demons and traitors and held a grand victory celebration. Just as Qin Yun soaked in the praise and cheers, an old, wrinkled face with bionic eyes appeared and slapped him with a shriveled palm. Guide, your tax payment is still due. Qin Yun woke with a start. Damn it, I can even dream about those taxmen. Master, Shieling appeared automatically. How long did I sleep? Qin Yun asked. 3 hours, Shieling replied. 3 hours. Really? Rubbing his eyes, Qin Yun considered his next move. Are there any players skilled in finance? I need professional advice to frame reasonable business policies and guide Atoma's industrial and economic development. Shieling nodded. Yes, Shi Lang is a psyker on Holy Terra and an excellent finance professional. Call him over. I need his input on some decisions. Thank you all for your support. The The second chapter will be a bit late. 54. This is a betrayal to us. This is a betrayal to us. The moment the industrial bill was announced, controversy exploded. Players clustered in small groups to argue the merits, submitted business proposals, or simply rushed to act. Dora was the fastest. As soon as he read the notice, clearly an official invitation for players to take over Atoma Planet's industrial system, he drafted a plan and applied for the largest loan he could get. He intended to throw everything into expanding Dora Workshop, to build an industrial Thulu empire beyond imagination. Old Bird and Wu Mao, two well-educated talents, wanted in as well. Their plan was to take on the power plant contract, manage the plant, and use its resources to run a self-designed reactor, work and leisure both taken care of. Shi Long and the others gathered to discuss the new bill. Do you think I should start a factory? Piange stroked his chin, looking thoughtful. What kind of factory? Shi Lang asked. Just look at my ID and you'll know what I do. Piange's grin widened. There are millions in the Hive cities with almost no entertainment, lives pressed flat by work. Give them a few films and they'll watch them over and over, anything to forget the grind. It would sell like hotcakes. He grew excited, waving his hands as he warmed to the pitch. As the industry grows, the market expands. Titans, Eldar, Necrons, Orcs, let them all be part of it. We can mix a few genres, maybe even sell films to Titan and Eldar markets. Make small money first, then bigger. Create glory. Shi Lang and Ningba Ren exchanged blank looks. Guanbao scowled. Slanesh isn't even this chaotic. You heretic, you should be strapped to a stake and slow roasted. Piange only laughed. In that case, I'll film a few tentacle monsters. Guanbao's eyes lit up. As expected of Piange, visionary. That'll be popular across the galaxy, and make sure the tentacles wear pink skirts. Shi Lang and Ningba Ren retreated in unison. I can't be near this, Shi Lang muttered, backing away. Ningba Ren fell in beside him. What now? Training ground, Shi Lang said. I'm skipping missions for a few days. I need to adapt to the Astartes body and the psychic interface. I'll go with you, Ningba Ren decided. I'll train too. They were almost at the training ground when Sealing's projection appeared before them. God Chosen One, night output Slanesh 10 times. Sealing, little angel, what is it? Shi Lang blinked. He hadn't expected to be hailed by name like that. My master requests you report to the strategic room console, Shieling said. The guide wants me? Shi Lang blinked, then nodded. Tell him I'll be there immediately. Be quick. The projection winked out. Looks like the training session will have to wait, Ningba Ren shrugged. Why do you think the guide wants you? Why think? Shi Lang said. Let's go. I'm going with you. Imperial Glory, strategic room. Shi Lang and Ningba Ren entered to find Qin Yun standing at the console, scanning reports. Lord Guide, they saluted. You're finally here. Qin Yun looked up at Shi Lang. I need your professional knowledge for a reference. Me? Shi Lang blinked, surprised. Yes. Qin Yun nodded. Shi Lang's face lit up. Could this be an actual opportunity? I am honored to serve you, esteemed Lord Guide, for the restoration of humanity's glory. Ningba Ren rolled his eyes, but jumped into the act. I am also willing to serve, Lord Guide, even if it means battling the whole universe. Qin Yun watched the two of them with a faint, private amusement. He would have preferred they not compete in flattery, but the eagerness was helpful. I've introduced the Industrial Bill to promote Atoma Planet's industrial development, restore its prosperity, and prepare for future wars. But I don't yet have a market-based incentive system that actually works. He sighed. Propaganda from the state church and the Adeptus Mechanicus can raise output, but it makes people numb and obedient. I want a system that encourages innovation and motivates labor. Shi Lang considered that. So the guide wanted to use finance to steer a market economy. He spoke carefully. Humans respond to rewards. Build a system with phased rewards, steady, small benefits for incremental work, and explosive rewards for successful, innovative projects. Stable rewards keep people fed and working. Explosive rewards let one lucky innovator leap out of poverty overnight. And he added bluntly, introduce controlled inflation to weaken stagnant wealth and force circulation. Qin Yun listened, satisfied. When Shi Lang finished, he offered him a role. Would you be interested in serving as a consultant to reform Atoma Planet? Shi Lang was stunned for a moment, then nodded eagerly. He had been waiting for an opportunity like this. While Qin Yun and Shichi Lang discussed market policy, the governor's hall at the top of Tyrene Hive City erupted. Planet Governor Feng had summoned the local nobility and announced Qin Yun's decisions in public. The response was fury. "This is a betrayal of loyalty," a luxuriously dressed man bellowed. "My family has served Atoma Planet for almost 1,000 years. Are we to stand on equal footing with commoners now?" "We demand an explanation," another called. "We have sacrificed so much for the Empire. Why should one word make us lose everything?" One after another, the dignitaries vented. Factories and high offices, they argued, should belong to them. The mid-hive and lower hive had always been squeezed for their labor and taxes in the name of the God Emperor to support the elites. Now the guide proposed giving 2/3 of the high-level positions to people from the mid-hive and lower hive, and opening factory contracts to bidding by capable people. That threatened long-held political value and wealth. Many of them had expected to be rewarded for following the guide into war and hoped to be redistributed some of the spoils. Instead, before Atoma Planet was even fully retaken, their privileges were being stripped away. "Let the guide explain himself," an elderly noble threatened Governor Feng. "If he cannot, then from this day forward we will refuse to obey his orders." 55. Swing 3 sticks in 1 second. Each stick has an attitude. Swing 3 sticks in 1 second. Each stick has an attitude. "Have you considered the consequences of saying that?" Feng asked, looking at the old noble. "Take it back, and I can pretend this never happened." Bishop Heidelake spoke up at the same time. "One must show awe and obedience to the Emperor's envoy. My loyalty has been trampled, my family's safety is gone, and now you tell me to respect and revere him." The old noble enunciated every word, furious. "From today on, my family will refuse every order of his unless he revokes those idiotic reforms." With that, he turned and left the hall. "Revocation isn't enough. He must apologize to us in person, otherwise my family will no longer support him. Me too. I'll never accept such humiliation." Several powerful nobles voiced their support and stormed out, vowing to stand united until the Emperor's envoy yielded and apologized. The remaining attendees hesitated but stayed. After all, the reforms affected their family interests. Loyalty, however, still carried weight. After the meeting, Feng immediately reported everything to Qin Yun. Qin Yun smiled and issued new orders. "If those families refuse, let those willing take their place. Immediately relieve those family members of their duties and promote people from the grassroots. Also, improve pay and welfare for the army and workers. Win the support of the forces and the populace." Qin Yun made no sign of backing down. He had Feng promote capable talent from the mid-hive and lower hive. Most of the routine work in the hive cities was done by grassroots staff. The great family's energies had been wasted on etiquette and society. The newly promoted grassroots officials quickly became the backbone of the hive city's operations. The families that tried to blackmail Qin Yun through non-cooperation found themselves sidelined. Their members were dismissed, and ordinary citizens from the lower and mid-hives took their places. The rollout of welfare measures likewise won genuine support from the people and the army. If this continued, the nobles would lose all their leverage. "We absolutely can't sit by. We must make him see that without us, his rule can never be stable," one powerful noble declared, urging all families to unite to defend their interests and family honor. Many families secretly allied. Through conspiracies, smear campaigns, and agitation, they incited ignorant citizens into protest. They set up gangs to infiltrate protest crowds and attack the city guard maintaining order. Infiltrators already placed within the army also seized the chance to act violently, escalating the conflict further. As these moves unfolded, the situation in Tyrian Hive City rapidly degenerated. Rioters sprang up across the hive cities, smashing and looting. Gang members seized factories and industrial facilities. The city guard, misled by planted insiders, responded slowly and inefficiently, letting the riot swell. Worse, the destructive gangs wielded standard equipment only regular forces should have access to. Feng realized the turmoil was a counterattack by the powerful nobles. He immediately mobilized a trusted unit to fortify the governor's mansion and protect his family, fearing the nobles might do something drastic. When Qin Yun learned of the riots, he opened communications with Feng. Atoma is not fully recovered, and humanity still faces chaos, Qin Yun said. Yet these people stir trouble for their own selfish ends. They've crossed my bottom line and can't be tolerated. They must be dealt with severely. Feng looked worried. Shouldn't we compromise and appease them? Reform is not a dinner party, Qin Yun replied. If we give in now, they'll press again later. These leeches will never be satisfied. They'll only grow bolder. Gather evidence of those families' involvement and leave the rest to me. The call ended. Qin Yun paused a moment, then began composing an order on the control panel. Limited time mission, Tyrene Spring Brief. Several rigid conservative noble families, unhappy with reform, secretly incited gangs to riot. Such actions are betrayal of the Empire and of the Emperor's trust. They must be punished. Suppress the rioters on the streets, retake occupied vital areas, and minimize damage to buildings. Reward: players who accept this mission and join the ground suppression operation will receive 5,000 contribution points and 50 honor points. Final reward to be determined by individual contribution in the operation. Xiling watched from the side, tilting her head. Qin Yun glanced at her. Watch closely. When Master is busy, Xiling will need to take on this work proactively. Xiling nodded. Don't worry, Master. I'll learn well and try to make you less tired. Good girl, Qin Yun praised, then opened a channel to Ainge. Once a captain, Ainge had risen to colonel after several promotions. Guide, sir, Ainge answered, standing rigid and speaking loudly. A riot has broken out in Tyrian Hive City. I request immediate authority to command all military forces here. What if they refuse? Qin Yun asked. Execute them for treason against the God Emperor and raise the troops' pay, Qin Yun ordered. Understood. Ainge saluted and set the plan in motion. Driven by the generous rewards of the limited-time mission, players quickly joined the suppression in Tyrian Hive City. They wore advanced exoskeletons, wielded devastating firepower, and were protected by shields and armor. Some veteran players had already been promoted to Astartes. The gang members were no match. Heh, betray the Emperor. These fools are courting death, one player said. I don't care why. I just want to kill. Another replied. Traitors all deserve death for the warband, someone else shouted. In the name of the moon, purge the traitors, another added. The players were exhilarated. They drove through the streets, slaughtering anyone who resisted. Warmaster and his team also fought in the operation. He'd been promoted to Astartes and used the Imperial Fist's gene seed. With passive skills like Indomitable Will, his combat power had soared. Iron decays, stone endures forever. For the Empire, Warmaster bellowed, standing amid burning wreckage with a giant warhammer raised. After this, we'll have enough honor points to register a warband. Zhuge dropped a gang member with a single shot and chatted with teammates over comms. By the way, what shall we call our warband? Sons of the Warmaster, Warmaster replied first. The comms channel went silent for a beat, then burst into enthusiastic greetings. You treating us as brothers, and you want all the glory? Oh, come on. You already planning to throw Guide Sir a Warmaster birthday bash? Heretic, tie him to the stake and roast him slow. Your ID's going to be cursed. Meanwhile, the Tyrian Hive City Guard struck hard after Ainge replaced the commanders. Quickly, an officer barked. Anyone caught in the riot, none shall be spared. They dared defy the God Emperor. They must be punished, the guard roared, moving through the streets. Their zeal wasn't mere bloodlust. It came from a sudden improvement in pay. Guard soldiers normally earned low wages, 3,000 to 4,000 Aquila coins, with better salaries and benefits reserved for company-level officers, posts long held by family scions. Ordinary soldiers, recruited from the lower and mid-hives, had few benefits. When Ainge took over, he announced Qin Yun's reforms. The food allowance alone was raised to 4,800 Aquila coins, and with welfare and salaries combined, ordinary soldiers could earn up to 10,000 Aquila coins. Qin Yun also ordered back wages paid and granted an extra 3 months' pay as compensation. Faced with a thick stack of money, the soldiers felt that slow action would be an insult to the guide's generosity. With the combined effort of players and the guard, the riot was quickly crushed. The inner city was placed under martial law and sealed off. Nobles implicated in the riots were purged. Many were dragged from their homes by players or soldiers and forced to kneel in a line in the central square. When Qin Yun left the imperial glory and appeared before them, the nobles wailed and begged one by one. "We were wrong, guide sir," one sobbed. "O saint of the emperor, give us a chance to atone," another pleaded. Qin Yun ignored their cries and walked to Feng's side. "Guide sir," Feng said, "is this the noble who declared he would never obey my orders?" Qin Yun looked at the old noble kneeling beside Feng. Feng nodded. "Yes, he organized the riot, trying to force you to compromise." "I know I was wrong." The old noble's voice broke as he cried, "Forgive me, great saint." Qin Yun stopped in front of him and shook his head. "You don't know you were wrong. You only know you're going to die." "Saint, how should we deal with these rebels?" Bishop Heidelake asked. "My suggestion is execution by fire. Only flames can cleanse these sinners." "Resources are scarce now," another noble muttered. "Burning them would be wasteful." Qin Yun's words, cold, decisive, final, brought smiles and sighs of relief to many of the nobles. To them, the situation had just turned in their favor. 56. Taxation Department. What kind of living saint is this? He is just an illegal psychic. The influential figures kneeling in the square stared up at Qin Yun with pleading eyes, hoping for mercy, for a chance to atone. Qin Yun's next words threw them into a deeper despair. "Casca the sage, convert these grave sinners into servitors and let them continue to serve the emperor," he ordered. "As for their children, hand them over to Colonel Ainge, form a penal camp and enlist those children into it. Tell them it is because of their father's sins that they must atone. Only when their crimes are repaid can they receive forgiveness." Qin Yun's voice was quiet, but to the nobles it sounded like thunder. "No," someone cried. "Please, great living saint." But no one cried for them now. "The guide is after all a living saint," Heidelake proclaimed to the crowd. "Too merciful to these rebels. Praise the god emperor who sent such a merciful living saint." Compared to the state church and the Inquisition's penalties, Qin Yun's judgment was merciless in its own way. The Tyrene Spring operation ended amid the desperate cries of the influential families. Then Qin Yun issued one more decree. To reward the soldiers and the player allies, they were permitted to plunder the mansions of the rebellious families, provided they turned over 50% of the spoils to the crown. The rest was theirs. The soldiers and players erupted in cheers and swarmed the mansions. What followed was a ravenous looting. Not a cabinet, not a loose floorboard was spared. Players tore down walls, searching for hidden caches. "I'm rich. This is mine," Demo shouted as he frantically rifled through treasures. Soldiers nearby watched him with stunned expressions. To them, Demo and the others were supposed to be God-chosen, emissaries of the God Emperor sent to restore order. Instead, they looked more like common raiders. Sensing the soldiers' strange stares, Damo tried to explain, voice guilty and eager. "Actually, I don't really want the treasure. I'll put it to proper use. I mean it. You'll believe me, right?" The soldiers said nothing, lowered their heads, and moved on, whispering to one another like bored townsfolk gossiping. Damo sighed. "My reputation's probably ruined. Those NPCs must be talking about me behind my back. Realism in games isn't always a good thing." Then he glanced at the loot in his hands, and the annoyance vanished. A smile spread across his face. Reputation be damned. With the rebellion crushed, Tyrian Hive City entered a period of rapid growth. Economic and industrial output kept setting new records. Management-minded players took out loans to bid for operating rights to the Hive City's factories and plunged into market competition. Dora Workshop acquired several large industrial equipment manufacturers. Production of the Tomorrow series exoskeletons surged. The Zagu-01 mech completed design and testing and moved into production. Xiao Pang arranged a loan to prepare the first player-assembled mech core. Reverse engineering of power armor succeeded. Using the captured technology, Dora's team designed the CMC-01 power armor, offered in two variants, one suited to ordinary humans and one adapted for Astartes. Its performance lagged behind commonly used Imperial armor, but it was far cheaper. With increased productivity, it could be mass-produced. Rockhive City also finished initial reconstruction and was back on track. Qin Yun ordered continued recruitment, preparing for a fresh wave of campaigns. He planned to annihilate the remaining rebels and retake the two Hive cities still out of Imperial control. At that moment, a response arrived from the Valancius family of Scintilla, the capital world of the Calixis sector. Scintilla was a prosperous first-grade tithe world with a recorded population of roughly 25.5 billion, unrecorded numbers only added to its significance. Governed locally by Marius Hax in the name of Terra, it was the center of the sector's official power. The Calixis conclave of the Inquisition, led by Inquisitor Lord Kaiden, Cardinal Ignato of the State Church, Marshal Gorman of the Adeptus Arbites, High Astropath Xiao, and Canoness Gonariel of the Sororitas all held sway there. Beyond the official forces, Scintilla hosted immense civilian power as well. The Collin family, banking across the sector. The Cestral Alliance, rooted in Regulus and controlling agricultural worlds. The Duane Company, a religiously influential conglomerate. The wealthy Marchenko dynasty, and the heavy industrial Skellen Ha group. Scintilla Hive World was the place to plant roots for anyone hoping to elevate family or personal standing. It was also the homeworld of the famed Imperial Rogue Regiment, the Scintilla Fusiliers. The Valancius family's reply, routed through the Astropathic Choir and delivered personally to the Departamento Munitorum, detailed their plight. A rebellion of cultists had prevented them from immediately paying the tithe, and they requested temporary deferment. The Departamento Munitorum sat in the inner city of Tarsus Hive, occupying a vast block of spires and bureaucratic chambers. Its thousands of rooms were subdivided into cubicles where hunchbacked clerks tapped at cogwheel keyboards. Servitor-run trams chugged between corridors, depositing scrolls and collecting process documents. Heavily bionic servitor clerks received the bundles and fed them into the central database. The entire machine thrummed with endless coordination of the sector's taxation. After the courier passed through the busy halls and the missive worked its way up the chain, senior officials convened to discuss the Valancius family's request. The Valancius claim they were overrun by cultists and could not remit their tithe, one man read aloud. They ask for a temporary deferment. This is an act of heresy and betrayal of the God Emperor, Sonas Collin snapped. Sonas, from the Collin family, occupied a mid-level supervisory post at the Departamento Munitorum as a stepping stone to greater power. The Collin family had profited from the Valancius decline and had dogged them at every turn since the exploration expedition incident. Compensation had been paid, but the Collins would not let the Valancius fall quietly. Some of the counselors suggested investigation. They claim a living saint manifested and led them to defeat the rebels, restoring the Emperor's glory, one said. We should verify if there truly is a living saint. This is deception, Sonas cut him off. In this age of turmoil, supplies and tithes are vital. The Valancius refusal to pay indicates long-standing corruption and intent to rebel. That living saint they boast of is most likely an illegal psyker. In the face of such heresy, we should issue an exterminatus order. Sonas's words carried an implicit threat. Anyone who defended the Valancius family now could be targeted later by the Collin faction if any heresy was discovered. Many in the chamber were privately uneasy at Sonas's domineering tone, but none dared object. His motion passed. Sonas smiled coldly as the decision went through. The Valancius family was finished. Even the decaying corpse on the Golden Throne could not save them now. Once they were annihilated, he planned to take a few young Valancius scions and bind them by marriage into the Collin family, legitimately inheriting the imperial charter and raising the Collin family to a new plateau of power. 57. The Rise of Adolf Warmaster. The Rise of Adolf Warmaster. Qin Yun convened a military council. High-ranking officials attended. Planet Governor Feng, Casca the Sage, and Bishop Heidelake. Military commanders were there too, including Major General Ainge. Ainge's rise had been meteoric. At Leichardt Space Station, he had been a mere captain. Now he stood as a major general. Captain, major, lieutenant colonel, colonel, major general. A climb that would normally take others more than a decade had happened in 2 months. Rumors about Ainge's background swirled, but Qin Yun never answered them. He couldn't very well tell people he simply didn't have many capable hands to spare. Few were adept at military matters. Ainge could fight, recruit, and command large-scale operations. He was loyal and reliable. He had charged the front at Rockhive City and had carried out Qin Yun's orders without compromise during the Tyrene suppression. Once he seized the guard, he crushed the noble's resistance with an iron fist. If not him, should Qin Yun have promoted some family scion who would undermine him at every turn? The meeting's main topics were the recapture of Atoma Planet, the annihilation of remaining rebel forces, and the reconstruction that would follow. Qin Yun presented a complete, detailed plan. Once the surface was retaken and the hive cities rebuilt, they would enter a phase of large-scale development and mass production, exploiting mineral resources in the asteroid belt and on uncolonized moons and planets, constructing void infrastructure such as space factories, orbital farms, shipyards, and starforts. They would also implement pro-natalist policies to rebuild the population. Qin Yun ordered the Adeptus Mechanicus to extract gene seeds from the players to cultivate implanted organs and mass-produce Astartes in preparation for expeditions into other star sectors. He explained that a gene seed is a collective term for a set of germ cells and genetic programming. These can be cultivated into various gene organs with different functions. Surgically implanted into healthy boys, those organs can transform recruits into superhuman space marines. Each Astartes can provide 2 gene seeds in a lifetime, one in the throat that matures after surgical modification and is essentially a blank seed, and another near the chest that carries part of the implanted warrior's combat memories, allowing new recruits to accelerate toward veteran competence. When players choose to exchange for a gene seed, they are drawn into the Emperor's domain where the transformation completes. Though different from the standard Astartes promotion, these recruits still possess gene seeds. Astartes may not be the Empire's absolute strongest force, but their cost-effectiveness is unmatched. In the current precarious situation, Qin Yun argued, sufficient military strength was essential. After all, the bastards on Terra had even dared to scheme against a Primarch. If their fists weren't strong, they could be crushed. Naturally, Qin Yun limited cultivation to gene seeds from loyalist legions. At the meeting, Qin Yun assigned tasks meticulously and delivered a rousing final mobilization. This battle is humanity's counterattack against chaos. The Empire will win. Humanity will win. Gentlemen, let us once again claim victory and glory. His words sparked a roar of approval. The crowd shouted, "The Empire will win, and humanity will win." Afterward, all departments in Tyrian Hive City sprang into unprecedented activity. Massive factory machinery thundered non-stop, producing war material around the clock. The populace was mobilized. The state church's propaganda machine ran at full strength. Bishop Heidelake himself took the stage and delivered speeches across Tyrian Hive City, urging citizens to enlist and dedicate themselves to the war. The messenger of the God Emperor walks among men. He brings light and salvation. Lost and suffering citizens, now is the time to unite and take vengeance on our enemies. Meanwhile, War Master, Ningba Ren, Shi Si Lang, and the other players had formed a war band called Emperor's Cannon Fodder. They planned to celebrate in a tavern inside the game. Having been promoted to Astartes, their average height was now 2.3 meters, not unusual in the Hive cities, where gang enforcers and reinforced zealots often dwarfed ordinary folk. To bystanders, War Master and his group looked like a band of toughs, and they walked easily into a gaudily decorated tavern. The interior was smoky and chaotic, lit by flickering, cheap neon. Dancers in provocative outfits moved among patrons, scented with cheap perfume. When alcohol loosened tongues, political and military arguments inevitably followed. A skinny man at one table was especially vocal, railing against the authorities. "Mobilization again," he sneered. "How long since they retook Rockhive City? Another war, and the authorities still don't value our lives." "Welfare's decent now," someone answered. "Stop always bashing them." The man shook his head, contempt on his face. "It's temporary. Concessions to win you over. After the war, they'll take it all back and demand more." "Isn't that always the case?" Another chimed in. "Every power struggle comes with promises and grand images. Once they've got power, they turn away." War Master bristled. In the real world, his persona had been a fervent student from Holy Terra. Hearing someone belittle the guide's policies, he slammed the table. The tavern fell silent. Patrons turned their heads. Tall and muscular, they clearly looked like trouble, and few dared to argue. The critic froze, fear flickering across his face. War Master stood and stalked to him, eyes sharp. "Have you fought in the war?" The man shook his head. Have you killed a single rebel soldier? Another shake. Then why do you slander those who risk their lives to protect you? War Master's gaze swept the room. No one dared meet it. Do you think we chose this war? No. No one wants to face those monsters. No one wants to die at the hands of those heretics, but in this desperate age, we have no choice. The tavern sat in awed silence as War Master's voice carried. Do you think these enemies came for a picnic to bring warmth and joy? No, they came to kill us. He described what he had seen. Piles of corpses, some skinned, some beheaded. Men, women, children. Despair and terror frozen on their faces. If we do not fight, more men, women, and children will die that way. He stepped to a middle-aged man. Tell me, are you willing to let your family be dragged out and beheaded? No, the man said. And you? War Master pointed around the room. No, several answered. War Master's voice rose with passion. War is never beautiful, but sometimes to let others live we must fight. Perhaps we cannot enjoy peace, but our children might. The battles have to be fought. Why not by those already living in hell? The God Emperor will embrace every fallen soul. For the God Emperor, for our families, we will fight in blood. He painted a picture of the future. Young couples kissing in corners, middle-aged men drowning sorrows at the bar, dancers worrying about meals after work, all free from the fear of being torn from their beds and beheaded. If I do not die, I will fight until everyone finds happiness. If I die, cover my corpse with the aquila and bury me where I fell, that I may see the enemy's defeat. The tavern was silent, then erupted into thunderous applause. War Master bowed to his audience and delivered his final line. For the God Emperor, for our families, never compromise, fight to the death. The crowd's emotions had been wholly stirred, voices rose. For a time, the momentum was intoxicating and almost deafening. Shi Lang stared at War Master, stunned. He had only asked him to give a simple tavern speech, but War Master had poured everything into it. Ning Ba Ren and the other players were equally shocked, as if meeting this version of him for the first time. Could the ardent student from Holy Terra be so gifted? With a few words, he had set an entire room ablaze. 58. Operation Counterattack. The tavern speech was filmed by onlookers and spread like wildfire. The video did more to rouse the populace than all the state church's propaganda. Qin Yun got hold of it immediately. Watching the War Master on film, fiery, in his element, stirring people's emotions, he could only sigh. Some people were born for war. The War Master had been just an ordinary university student on Holy Terra, mediocre grades, unremarkable looks. If nothing unforeseen had happened, he would have led a forgettable life. Nobody had expected his gift for oratory. His talent could rival the so-called demon. Qin Yun casually uploaded the tavern speech to the official site. That kind of passionate footage was perfect bait for the armchair players and kept the active crowd's enthusiasm boiling. Just as he expected, forum threads and chat groups exploded soon after the upload. Reservation numbers spiked to record highs. Guilliman is the only son. I want to play too. I want to play too. Emperor, let me pledge my loyalty to the Imperium. Erlongu Gangder tavern speech. Human third Imperium, right? I don't want to be a stinky can. Third Imperium, then the second Impa. Blue two-headed bird. Loyalty, good heavens, I just gotta work, and you guys are doing this. Lost Krieg, nothing else to say. Loyalty. Loyalty +1. Loyalty +1. If it's really impossible to get in, just open the beta. Those kids are sulking. Petition for open beta. Don't keep it internal. I can't take it anymore. The person above is starting to sound like they've been corrupted by Slanesh. Players with access swore they'd try it the next time they logged on, fantasizing about being the second Adolf and leading humanity to glory. The armchair players drafted blood petitions demanding an open beta. Qin Yun, like a petty trickster, teased those spare tire fans and went back to his preparations. He closed the projection and returned to work. After purging the corrupt nobles, the efficiency of the administration improved dramatically. War preparations accelerated. Supplies, weapons, and equipment were put in place fast. Large numbers of troops assembled, now wearing Tomorrow I-type exoskeleton armor, a huge step up from the old carapace armor and lasguns. The elite frontline units were issued Tomorrow II-type exoskeletons and heavier firepower. Tyrian Hive City lacked the tech to produce lemon rust tanks and chimera transports, So to beef up armored forces and mobility, Casca the Sage rallied a group of priests and repurposed agricultural harvesters and grain carriers as a base platform. They turned them into the Casca tank and the Tyrant transport. Such innovation was strictly forbidden by the Adeptus Mechanicus and could have earned them the Mechanicus' anathema. But under Qin Yun's protection, presenting himself as the Omnissiah's envoy, Casca and his team cast aside the Mechanicus' strictures and began developing new equipment. At first, Casca pushed back hard. He argued that this was a grave disrespect to the Omnissiah and an offense against the Adeptus Mechanicus. But when Qin Yun produced his credentials as the Omnissiah's envoy and demanded obedience, Casca switched from defiance to zeal. He became the most active proponent, even quietly lobbying to name the new tank after himself. Players, never missing a chance for a joke, nicknamed him Sundere Oilman with a righteous body. It made sense, really. Casca wanted to reform and prove himself, but years of Mechanicus indoctrination and solemn oaths had held him back. Qin Yun's authority let him break those mental chains with a clear conscience. After multiple rounds of testing, the Casca tank and the Tyrant transport entered production. The factories ran at full capacity, churning out tank legions and transport fleets to mechanize the forces. On the players' side, preparations were equally busy. Dora Workshop finished the first batch of Zagu 01 mechs, and Xiao Pang and his group came to inspect. They had declined to ascend into Astartes and instead opted for neural enhancements to pilot mechs. The mech route was expensive, logistics heavy, and weak in hand-to-hand combat, but they believed it was the future of Warhammer OL. With the Imperium's black tech and the guide's Star God AI, Gundam-style mechs seemed plausible to them. Drop in, obliterate positions with a single blast, level cities, sweep everything before them. High damage and extremely cool. No wonder Astartes pilots, armed only with swords, axes, and bolt guns, would be jealous. "I just thought of something," Piange said suddenly, staring at the Zagus 01 with a suddenly serious look. Xiao Pang and the others assumed he'd found a technical flaw and turned to him. "What did you spot?" September 9th asked. Piange stroked his chin theatrically. "You guys, what does Optimus Prime squirt out, water or oil?" He paused, adopting a thinker's pose. Zhao Zilong gets lonely and goes to Changbompo, but when Optimus Prime gets lonely, does he go find a ride-sharing car? Dora's eyes widened. Xiao Pang's mouth twitched. September 9th rolled his eyes. "You Slaaneshes chosen?" someone muttered. "Contact the Custodes. Throw him in the Black Dungeon." "Still jail? Just toss him onto a cargo ship and send him to burn on a star. I asked you to inspect, not philosophize." Piange scratched his head. "The Zagu made me think of Transformers, and that forum question popped into my head." Xiao Pang glared. "Admit it, you're just a Slaanesh fanboy." "I'm being slandered. I'm loyal to the Emperor," Piange protested. "Yesterday, you even helped censor some porn sites," Xiao Pang shot back. "You have that power and that sense of civic duty?" Xiao Pang looked at him with newfound respect. Piange grinned. "I pull up my pants and click report. Shameless. Scum. I'm ashamed to be associated with you." They bantered for a while, then completed the neural link tests for the Zegu 01s. After confirming everything was stable, Xiao Pang paid Dora the final balance and ordered the mech loaded onto the transport deck. Transport ships capable of airdropping the mechs were standing by. As preparations neared completion, Qin Yun drafted the public dispatch at the control console. "Grand counter-offensive announcement. After a period of preparation, we have assembled a sufficiently powerful force. In the Emperor's name, we will wage war against the enemy and annihilate all rebels. The Warband mission system is now active. Chapter Masters can select and accept missions. Individual players may receive missions from Major General Ainge or other officers with mission-issuing authority. A thought for the day. He is our glimmer of light in the darkness, unquestionable." After sending the announcement, Qin Yun walked onto the bridge, took the captain's chair, and issued orders. "Move us into orbit over Annis Hive. Have all gun crews load macro cannons. Execute orbital bombardment immediately upon receiving the ground force's signal." Annis Hive was second only to Tyrian Hive City in scale and had been the first Hive City taken by the cultists. Located in the planet's northern hemisphere and backed by unbroken mountain ranges, it was easy to defend and difficult to assault. Because the cultists had planned long in advance and used warp corruption, Anna's hive had fallen easily, and its facilities remained largely intact. It still possessed void shields and an entire industrial chain intact. In short, Anna's hive was the rebels' main base. If they could take Annis, the rebels' doom would be all but certain. 59. Campaign system updates. Dong. The bell rang. Tech priests scattered across the Moon-class battleship intoned in unison, the Great Omnissiah. Coordinate parameters have been entered. Movement plan confirmed. A metal-faced tech officer reported. Trajectory calculated. Parameters sent to the engine room. The man in the naval uniform acknowledged, and units replied in sequence. When every department confirmed readiness, the power supervisor threw the lever. Light erupted from the stern engines of the Imperial Glory. A tremor rolled through the hull and built into a violent vibration. Machines roared together, their din braided with the ship's hum, and the crews shouted orders. Conventional drives pushed the Imperial Glory through the void. Half an hour later, the battleship reached the designated station. No sooner had it adjusted its orbit than the hull shuddered. The void shield projector emitted a high, splintering crack, and alarms screamed through the decks. "We're under fire," a supervisor shouted. Qin Yun switched to the external feeds. The void outside the plexiglass was a storm of tracer fire. Electromagnetic cannon shells and laser lattices from the surface slammed at the Imperial Glory. The shield shimmered and rippled under the unrelenting barrage. "Divert power to the void shield. Hold position and wait for ground force confirmation," Qin Yun ordered. The tech priests redirected energy as ordered. On the surface, ground forces pushed toward the objective. Massive war vehicles ground across the barren plains, their engines a thunderous choir and heat rolling in waves from their exhausts. Treads pulverized the dry soil into choking dust. Thunderhawk gunships skimmed overhead, swift as hunting birds. Ainge, in the dress of a major general, watched the battlefield from the command vehicle. For this war, they had thrown everything at the cause, to crush the rebels quickly and uphold the God Emperor's glory. "General, the God-chosen warbands are ready and await directives," a staff officer reported. Qin Yun had long ago authorized Ainge to distribute subordinate orders. Ainge had also folded him into the player's command structure. Ainge rotated the holographic map. The projection showed Anna's hive and its satellite cities. Assign an infiltration to the Emperor Numa battle group. They must insert into Annas O11 satellite city at all costs and destroy any long-range artillery and shield generators there. Request guide for orbital bombardment. We're 130 kilometers from the target. Prepare softening fire for entry. Task the Hammer and Sickle battle group with an airborne insertion. On the first wave of orbital strikes, they parachute into the enemy-occupied zones of Anna's hive to disrupt logistics and supply lines. The God-chosen were a sharp blade. Throwing them away in a meat-grinder frontal assault would be wasteful. If their ferocity and capability were well used, they could reduce casualties for other formations. Ainge assigned the God-chosen missions suited to the strengths of their warbands. The staff officer edited the orders and sent them to the Imperial Glory. After Shieling or Qin Yun approved, the commands would be relayed to the respective warbands. Inside a Valkyrie gunship, Warmaster and the other players were strapped in, waiting for deployment. Their armor systems pinged and a mission update flashed on their displays. Mission: Raid Annas 0111, Satellite City. Status: successfully arrived. In progress. Mark high-threat targets. In progress. Destroy enemy defensive turrets. In progress. Completing each objective grants a portion of war points. Final rewards are calculated from battlefield impact. The more objectives completed, the more war points awarded at settlement. Battlefield obedience is mandatory. Refusing a mission once reduces current points by 10%, twice reduces by 20%. A third refusal, malicious sabotage of a mission resulting in campaign failure, will forfeit all war points and may incur temporary bans of 15, 30, 90, or 365 days depending on severity. In extreme cases, permanent blacklisting will be applied. The campaign system's been upgraded, Warmaster observed. Rewards calculated by war points, penalties tightened. It looks like they're trying to stop players from sabotaging operations, Bald Donkey said. Understandable, Ningba Ren replied. If the game is truly 100% realistic, NPCs and resources don't respawn. A failed campaign can alter the whole course of the game. Shishi Lang, a consultant who sometimes fought alongside them when Guy didn't need his services, cut in. Are we arguing the system now? Shouldn't we be discussing the mission itself? Right, we can dissect the campaign changes later, War Master agreed. For now, mission details. War Master opened the attached data packet. His armor's machine spirit hummed and his wrist projection flared, painting a holographic map of the satellite city in the air. The coordinates were confirmed and sent to the pilot. The Valkyrie peeled off from the main fleet and streaked toward the objective. Within 10 minutes, the players saw the giant hive city looming against the horizon. Explosions detonated like drums. Boom, 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 fire tearing through the towering structures. The Imperial glory in orbit hammered the hive with bombardment, while the city's own artillery and laser batteries spat back into the void. Fighters circled above, dogfights flashing bright as the occasional craft exploded in a blossoming fireball. The Valkyrie descended with all stealth systems engaged, ghosting toward the satellite city. Only when they were already among the city's outer towers did ground systems notice the approach. Anti-aircraft arrays swung and fired, tracing the Valkyrie with barrages of fire snake tracers and dense laser curtains. The gunship's shields rippled under heavy impact. Alarms wailed and crimson strobes bathed the cabin. The Valkyrie answered in kind. The multi-barreled laser cannon in its nose spun up and opened fire. Rapid rotation tightened the beams against atmospheric dispersion, keeping their cutting power. Wing-mounted Hellstrike missiles locked and punched out with thunderous booms, while fuselage heavy bolters spat sustained lead. We're being braked by heavy AA fire. Can't hold approach to the mission coordinates. The pilot shouted. Land at the nearest viable zone, War Master ordered. There's a ruined church 2 blocks over, the pilot replied, sending coordinates. The player's armor systems automatically matched the coordinates to the map. Take us in, War Master said. The Valkyrie banked, avoiding concentrated fire, and dove toward a cluster of taller towers where anti-aircraft coverage was lighter. It punched through a collapsed dome and dropped to within 5 or 6 meters of the rubble-strewn ground. The hatch groaned open, and a howl of wind rushed into the cabin. Now, brothers, for humanity, for the Emperor, War Master cried. We are the Emperor's cannon fodder, loyal and fearless, a warband echoed. War Master leapt through the hatch. His power armor braced for impact, and he hit the ground with a heavy thud. The others followed in quick succession, boots thumping on cracked stone. For the Alliance, for the Canyon, cried one. For Jiu de Mailly, for Morgana, another shouted. They fumbled into tactical squads. Their movement and fire distribution were a patchwork of doctrines gleaned from local militia training and online tutorials, adapted on the fly, effective but a little awkward. A cold mist hung in the ruined church. Corrupted vegetation choked the foundations. Leaves dripped with viscous, oily fluids, and swarms of glossy flies circled dead and rotting corpses. Eerie roars echoed through the fog. From the green-slicked mist, plague walkers, hulking, fungus-stippled abominations stirred. Their bodies dripped with pus, their eyes rolled in manic hunger as they staggered toward the players. "Open fire!" War Master barked. Bolt guns cracked and a staccato of rounds chewed into the nearest walkers. Players with flamers unleashed tongues of vaporized promethium that curled like beasts of flame, immolating fungal growth and the fly swarms. The walkers flailed and burned, their shrieks swallowed by the roar of battle. Meanwhile, on the Imperial Glory's transport deck, the pace was no less frantic. Technicians and priests hustled to repair transports and mechs bound for the front. Xiaopang scanned a datapad that listed fresh mission objectives. They were to enter the battlefield within 30 minutes of the orbital bombardment ending and assist the armored forces in breaching enemy defenses. When the orbital strike ceased, Xiaopang threw his voice across the deck. "Praise the Omnissiah! Move out!" At his command, the Zgu-01 heavy mechs lining the deck bellowed a unified, ear-splitting horn and prepared to surge into battle. 60. Mission completed. Wings obtained. Dense artillery fire rained down, setting the city alight. The roar of war rolled across the heavens and the earth, echoing through every corner of the corrupted hive cities. The Corpse Emperor's servants hammered at Anna's hive with high morale. They They swept through like a scythe, breaking defensive lines and smashing fortresses as they advanced. Rebel leader Baal stared at the hollow map before him with a face gone ashen. Their situation had looked so promising. They controlled most of the Atoma planet, and the sacrificial rite was nearly ready. All that remained was to take the inner spire of Tyrene Hive City and dedicate the world to the Father, securing his eternal blessings. Fate, however, had other plans. Just as victory seemed within reach, the Corpse Emperor had sent a new champion, Guide. He first seized near orbit, then helped the Loyalists retake the outer wards of Tyrene. Before long, he had recaptured Rockhive and crushed Father's angels there. Now he led the counterattack that threatened to wipe away everything they had built. "Sir," a wet, rasping voice announced itself. The Grand Sorcerer of the Prophet cult shuffled up to Baal, breathing hard. Blessed by Nurgle, the sorcerer's body was grotesquely bloated. A tall, pointed hat stitched with brass flies sat on his head, hiding all but a scabbed mouth. His swollen belly swung as he walked, occasionally leaking foul fluid. "What's the result of the ritual?" Baal asked. "Has the Almighty Father, the God of life and death, answered us?" The Grand Sorcerer's tone was hollow with despair. "No, there was no response. The gods have abandoned us." Baal's face tightened, but the disappointment was no surprise. Since Rockhive, Father's angels had gone silent. Countless offerings, endless supplications, nothing. An adjutant rushed in, breathless. "Sir, Anna Satellite City 011 has fallen. The Corpse Emperor's forces are pouring into the inner wards through a breach in the defensive line." "Wasn't Antoinette stationed there?" Baal asked. "He was cut down. Fleeing troops report the enemy deployed Star Realm Knights. The tide of corpses was torn apart by them. Our garrison suffered heavy losses. The defensive line has collapsed." The adjutant's words drained the color from Baal's already pale face. "What do we do now?" The Grand Sorcerer asked. "Withdraw to the Sessos hives. They're still intact," the adjutant urged. "It's our only option." Baal's pride flared, but he had no choice. Remaining would mean dying pointlessly. He had to live to keep serving the Father. They packed what they could and began a planned retreat. Not long after they left the command center, horns and explosions shattered the air. Towering war mechs appeared on the skyline, their massive cannons hammering the fortifications and the roiling tide of corpses. Crumbling buildings collapsed into rubble under their fire. Like gods of war, they crushed everything, advancing toward the command center. "Why are they so fast?" Baal's lips trembled. "They're probably after you, sir," the adjutant said. "We need to move now." "Not move faster. Run. Drop everything. Abandon your gear and run." Baal ordered the men to travel light. They fled into the ruins and toxic mists, scrambling between shattered blocks. After a frantic scramble, they found a few vehicles and broke out of the hive. If they could escape the battlefield, they would still have a chance. Infantry in powered exoskeletons moved around the Zagu-01 war mechs, gunners manning machine emplacements on their suits to sweep hostile infantry clear of the mechs and to prevent saboteurs from getting close enough to place sticky charges on joints. "We're 1 kilometer from the objective. Accelerate the advance," someone announced. Xiaopeng scanned the tactical overlay. The target was in range. Suddenly, a rocket slammed out of a ruined block toward his Zagu. The mech's deflection shield flickered as it took the blast, detonating the warhead and absorbing most of the energy. Still, enough force seeped through to scorch the armor and strip paint. The damage readout made Xiaopeng frown. He turned the mech's main cannon and locked onto the building that had fired. "Die, traitor." The barrel flared, and the ruined structure answered with a thunderous collapse. Debris sprayed in all directions under the explosion's force, and a plume of smoke and dust rolled up to hide the wreckage. After the scanners showed no life signs in the rubble, Xiaopeng smiled and pushed on. The mech cluster drove a spear through the enemy defenses toward the command nexus. Tank formations and infantry poured through the breach, widening the hole. The rebel leader Baal had tried to flee, but was spotted by Xiaopeng and the other players. Fighter jets were vectored to intercept and began strafing the convoy. With one final thunderclap, a vehicle flipped and exploded. Realizing escape was impossible, Baal led his remaining followers into a plague-warped citadel. The Grand Sorcerer and 6 Psykers sacrificed themselves, turning the fortress into a blasphemous sanctuary for a last stand. Warp energies bled through cracked walls and rancid pus seeped from fissures. Clouds of pestilent flies swarmed over the keep like a living, buzzing death shroud. "We will never surrender," Baal intoned. "In the Father's name, we shall one day enter his beautiful garden." His prayers went unanswered. Qin Yun, seeing the rebels resolved to die, canceled any notion of taking them alive. "Eradicate them and their fortifications," he ordered. "No quarter. Your cover is as ridiculous as you are, traitor. Taste the wrath of the Omnissiah." Xiao Pang and his squad unleashed every hellfire and rocket the mechs carried on the defiled sanctum. The bombardment lasted minutes. Explosions rolled continuously until the air stung with heat and smoke. When the world finally fell quiet, infantry moved in to inspect. The fortress lay in ruins. Baal and his inner circle had been torn apart. There was no one left to rally the rebels. With Baal dead, the resistance in Anna's hive collapsed. Scattered survivors fled, but the Empire's iron tide rolled on. Amid the hum of chainswords and the crack of melta, the fleeing were cut down like grain before the scythe. This campaign differed from Tyrene and Rock. After industry resumed, the Imperial forces had been refitted. Even ordinary troops wore powered exoskeletons, with speed and firepower far beyond the insurgents. Mechanization reforms had increased operational tempo. Most of the rebels could not run fast enough and were annihilated. The fall of Anna's hive shattered the rebellion's capacity to threaten the sector. One more hive remained in rebel hands, but it was shattered, its void shields patched, its batteries ruined. It could not withstand Imperial artillery and armored assault. Within days, it too fell. As the last rebel commander died, a golden mission screen shimmered before Qin Yun. Mission complete. The sacred wings he had long coveted finally appeared in his rewards. Warp. A battle barge fought to crawl through a howling storm of psychic malice. Bereft of the Emperor's guiding light, they were lost in Tzeentch's labyrinth, blindly searching for an exit. Chapter Master Sard, an Adeptus Mechanicus tech priest in a crimson robe, reported to the ancient dreadnought before them. "The Geller field generator is 30% damaged. If we don't escape the warp soon, we will be lost." A hollow, aged voice came from within the armored sarcophagus. "I'd hoped the Star Realm Knights would go down in a heroic last stand." "Tragic, but a warrior's end," the tech priest said. "I never imagined we would be buried in Tzeentch." Despair lay heavy on the barge. With the Geller field pierced, their fate seemed sealed. Some of the crew knelt and prayed to the God Emperor. Others hid small firearms and poison, harboring the hope that if the end came, they might die with some dignity, at least as loyal servants of the Emperor.